Let's start off with our first story bordering on security, and the Inspector General of Police has assured the family of a couple who died under bizarre circumstances at Macro near Ebuakwa in Kumasi of the best of investigations. George Ekufu-Dampari, who spoke to the mother of the late Ernestina Jackson on phone to commiserate with the family, also assured the family of thorough investigations to get to the bottom of the matter. The assurance comes as police at Ebuakwa look into circumstances that led Samuel Jackson to keep his wife's dead body in their flat for several months. I am interior of our security desk has more.
The body of Samuel Jackson was also discovered by police in the family's bathroom, sitting on the toilet, while their two teenage children were also rescued in an unconscious state. The IGP's call comes as the Ashanti Regional Police Commander, DCOP Afo-Boachi Yiadom, joined by some divisional and district commanders, visited the couple's two traumatized children who remain on admission at the Ebuakwa Polyclinic. Until Wednesday, police sources said it has been difficult connecting with families of the deceased. But the family of Mrs. Jackson on Wednesday reached out to the children of the deceased following the airing of the story on JoyNews. An emotionally distraught Madam Lydia Boache Benson, mother of Ernestina Jackson, explained how her daughter disowned the family.
Is that how to pay me back? I am distressed. You promised to help the family whilst I was seeing you off at the airport. Is that how you repay me? I single-handedly sponsored your trip abroad.
Frederick Opon-Boateng, an in-law of Ernestina, is familiar with happenings in the family.
Around 2013, right? So they used to come to our place at Angumaso. And then one day, the Ernestina came with Jackson to visit their parents. So when they left, the next morning, she just called and told them that henceforth nobody should consider them as part of the family. And that was all. So we lost contact with them, but we had an information that they were staying somewhere around Ebuakwa. And that was all.
From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Oimiteria reporting.
From that sad development, let's talk voting, and the Electoral Commission is warning it will revoke the license of any political party that will not meet the criteria for its ongoing political parties audit. The Political Parties Act demanded that all parties have branches in all the regions and must be present in not less than 2/3 of the districts in each region. In a bid to enforce the law, the EC says it will not spare any political organization that violates the regulation. Dr. Bosman Asari is Deputy Chairperson of the EC.
The EC is very, very careful trying to balance. Because if you really want to apply the rule to the letter, maybe we may end up having only one or two political parties in Ghana.
The duopoly between the NDC and the NPP.
So as an institution, we are also very mindful of what the Constitution requires of us. Constitution encourages multi-party democracy, plurality in our politics. So we must be very careful in having a balance in our system. However, it doesn't also mean that parties will just be existing in names, so that when you have an IPAC, they will just come, but you go to the district or the constituency level, they are not there. So at the highest level of the commission, we are looking at all this so that we'll come up with a clear framework which will say that because these parties don't meet criterion A or the following criteria, we are going to crack the whip and maybe give them some time to put their houses in order, or if they cannot do that, then they may end up being...
But the inference I'm getting also from your point is that finance appears to be a big challenge for let me say, the lesser known political parties. Is that an admission on your side?
No, I think that, to have offices in all parts of the country, currently Ghana has 16 regions. We have the national capital, Accra is also there. Then we have almost 267 or so districts, and the constituencies are 275.
Right.
So if a smaller political party will have to rent, you are looking at over 300 locations. Almost 300 locations to rent in these places. And averagely, if they are even supposed to pay, let's say, 5,000 in rent per year for each location, that's a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, the 2020 elections saw residents of Central Kofi, Akakpo, Lolobi and Likpe voting only for presidential elections. The residents who were prevented from participating in the parliamentary elections have been in court requesting an opportunity to elect their member of parliament. However, Dr. Bosman Asari explains the aggrieved people of SAL may have to wait until the 2024 elections. Here's why.
This is an issue I think some people have been trying to blame the EC for why they did not vote for a member of parliament.
In the area.
Let's get the records clear. The Parliament of Ghana passed that district, the LI which created the district. Right. It passed somewhere on November 10th. We had the elections December 7th.
Yeah.
So the LI that created that particular district, it passed the parliament somewhere November 9th or November 10th, 2020. And they wrote to us, I think through either the Ministry of Local Government or Parliament itself, wrote to us to inform us. And when we got that letter, it was around either 13th or 14th. So when we got that letter, Parliament was even on recess. And once the LI created the SAR district, EC must now lay a new CI to create the constituency. How many days for you to lay for a CI to mature? 21 working days. Right. When Parliament is sitting, 21 days. So the time Parliament passed that district, the LI that created the district, and the time we received it, Parliament was even on. So no, anyone who blames the EC for why the people there did not vote for a member of Parliament just doesn't understand.
Let's talk hospital infrastructure now. And the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research says government cannot complete the 87 hospital projects it's targeted as part of the Agenda 111 project to complete this year. Now, according to the director, Professor Peter Quartey, government must increase resources to ensure health equity in the face of ongoing fifth wave of COVID-19 in Ghana and the pending risk of monkeypox, Marburg, among others. He said this at ISA's review of the 2022 mid-year budget and economic policy in Accra.
Agenda 111, very critical. If we don't have the infrastructure, health infrastructure, etc., we'll be faced with a lot of challenges. Now, it's not just COVID. We talk about monkeypox, Marburg, and many others that are likely to come. Depleted our forest so rapidly that now we are not too far from the forest. So some of the animals and some of the viruses and whatever are getting closer to us. And there also are some of our habits. We have some weird habits that, these are all affecting us and bringing some strange diseases, viruses.
Now, in our next story, the OT Regional Health Director, Dr. Akakpo Afre, says he is worried about the low doctor-to-patient ratio in the region. According to Dr. Afre, out of the over 20 medical doctors posted to the region within the last couple of years, only 2 have reported. The region will also lose 4 of its medical doctors in the month of September as they embark on further studies. Peter Sino reports from the region's half-year health performance review.
This is the second consecutive year the OT Regional Health Director, Dr. Akakpo Afre, has bemoaned the insufficient number of doctors in the region. According to him, the dwindling numbers and the unwillingness of medical doctors and other health workers to accept posting to the region is a worrying situation. He says by September 2022, the doctor-patient ratio would increase from 1 to 24,000 to 1 to 29,000.
The OT region is vastly deprived, and that is one of the disincentives of attracting and retaining staff here. We've gotten cumulatively about 22, 23 doctors being posted to us since 2020. But unfortunately, only one person reported. I think two. Yeah, only 2 people reported. And it's a source of worry to us, a huge source of worry. So our doctor population ratio, we used to be about 1:21,000, increased to 1:24,000, and now we are doing around 1:29,000. And I'm very sad to inform you that this year, one school reopening somewhere September, October, we will lose about 4 of our doctors in a region to further studies.
The Regional Health Directorate has also declared zero maternal mortality rate for 2022 and beyond. So far for year 2022, it is the only region with zero maternal mortality rate across the country.
Pregnancy is not a disease, and we don't expect a woman who is also giving life to also lose her life. So I picked it personally with my team, and we put in measures to make sure that we bring it to the barest minimum. So we have been working with a policy of zero tolerance for maternal mortality. So consistently, we have reduced from 98 per 100,000 live births, and last year we did 53. And now we are doing 0. So I think so far in the whole country, we are the only region that has not reported any maternal death.
However, the stillbirth rate across the region is on the increase, with Krachi West and Nkwanta North leading.
Our stillbirth rate has increased marginally from 12% to 13.1%. And we've been able to zero in on where the stillbirths are coming from. Majority of the stillbirths are coming from Nkwanta North, which is a source of worry to us. They increased their stillbirth from 3.8 to about 17 or 18, which is an astronomical increase.
On COVID-19 vaccination, the region has so far been able to vaccinate only 29% of its population of 762,940 residents, according to the 2021 National Population and Housing Census figures.
We've been able to do 29% of people who are fully vaccinated in the region in terms of the populations that we've been given, and this figure is not too good. Actually, we started from about 15% for the past 2 months or 3 months, and we've been able to make some improvement, but still the improvement is not as good as it is.
Until leadership on all fronts work to make the region attractive, residents are very likely not to get the best of quality health delivery in the region. Peter Sanu for JoyNews.
Expect your 15% cost of living allowance to hit the accounts by the end of this month. That's according to Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Reku Robbie. Demands for COLA resulted in weeks of labour agitation, industrial action, leaving government to commit to paying workers 15% of their salaries. The workers had argued that the worsening economic conditions had rendered their current salaries inadequate. Well, it has been confirmed COLA will be paid to all public sector workers beginning this month.
Yesterday, there was a tripartite meeting, and then the issue of COLA came up. And we spoke to the Minister of Finance. The assurance is that from the end of this month, the COLA payment will commence. So let's all take it that by end of August, public sector workers would feel COLA as part of their income.
Well, the CEO of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Ben Arthur, says steps are being taken to also address payroll fraud. He spoke to JoyNews on the sidelines of the signing of a memorandum of understanding with the Internal Audit Agency to check payroll fraud.
Payroll fraud remains an issue of major concern to government. In a quest to stem the tide, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is teaming up with the Audit Agency.
This is a huge responsibility by all standards. The signing of this MOU is significant because the only way that the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission can fulfill this mandate effectively, given the resource constraints, is to form strategic partnerships with agencies such as yours, with like objectives, who are committed to safeguarding the nation's scarce resources.
Above all, it calls for bravery. Are we brave enough to undertake what we said we are going to do? That, to me, that is the main challenge. If we are ready to undertake it, and if we are brave enough to go ahead with it, then we're going to achieve something. But if we step back, awaiting instructions and directions from political leaders, I can assure you it will be a very nice signing ceremony, nice reporting of whatever we have done in coming up with this, but then there will be no effect.
Another recent labor issue of concern has been the cost of living allowance. Workers remain hopeful that they will receive the monies soon.
Let's focus on the economy now. The opposition NDC is predicting gloom for the economy, citing recklessness and poor fiscal measures in mitigating the growing economic challenges. According to the NDC, the situation has been created by the Bawumia-led economic management team that has worsened the credit ratings, leading to a downgrade by sovereign rating agencies. The NDC says this has denied the country access to the capital market. National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi, in a media address, claimed the government had lost huge capital outflows from the economy as a result, and predicted that this would further cause the cedi to depreciate and likely hit 10 cedis per the dollar by December 2022.
As a matter of fact, Ghana has been ranked number 2 on Bloomberg's latest sovereign debt vulnerability ranking published a few days ago. Of all the countries in the world, Ghana has been ranked as the second country with the highest risk of debt default. Even Somalia, Zimbabwe, Ukraine, and countries at war, countries under military rule, Syria, are all doing better relative to their debt position than Ghana. We only performed better than a country called El Salvador in Central America, with a population of about 6.8 million people, who have had to deal with a recent slump after adopting Bitcoin as its official currency. So when El Salvador dianka yere cry. What an enviable feat, shot by the Bawumia-led economic management team. Indeed, the NPP have the men.
Mr. Jemfi has, however, recommended some solutions to President Akufo-Addo, including the sacking of Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta for leading the country into a ditch.
As a responsible opposition, and indeed a government in waiting, we in the NDC cannot sit aloof while our economy descends into the precipice. Despite the recalcitrance of this government and its sometimes antagonistic attitude to constructive criticisms and ideas, we cannot afford to allow this present state of affairs to continue to fester. It is for this reason that we call on Ghanaians to join us in demanding that the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government takes urgent steps to ameliorate our suffering and help stabilize the economy. To this end, we demand the immediate repeal of the obnoxious and the counterproductive e-levy act of 1.5% on Momo and electronic transactions. Number 2, we demand the immediate repeal of the punitive COVID-19 levy of 1% on the VAT flat rate and on NHIL. Number 3, we demand the immediate scrapping of crippling fuel taxes such as the special petroleum tax that has outlived its usefulness, the boiler tax, the new energy sector levy of 20 pesos per litre of diesel and petrol, and 18 pesos per kilogram of LPG. Number 4, we demand the immediate suspension of the 9 pesos boss margin, the price stabilization and recovery levy of 16 pesos and 14 pesos per litre of petrol and diesel respectively, both of which are not being applied for their intended purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, the last two puzzles for this government to resolve, if it is serious about bringing our economy back on track and restoring investor confidence, is to get rid, I repeat, is to get rid of the two villains who have been at the center of wreaking this havoc on our economy. First on the list is without doubt the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who has proven to be an unmitigated disaster when it comes to economic management. President Akufo-Addo's cousin has run down our economy through excessive borrowings that his personal company Data Bank profits from. Today, his name scares away investors and evokes a feeling of insecurity for every Ghanaian. Ken Ofori-Atta has become like stale water in a bottle, and the earlier President Akufo-Addo fire his underperforming cousin, the better for the economy and all of us. As the venerable former President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, recently said, regardless of our running to the IMF, the only way to begin the process of rebuilding, if we are to get any good deal from the IMF, is to sack Ken Ofori-Atta immediately and appoint a fresh, able hand in his stead to lead the IMF negotiations. And I'm sure you will agree with me. The next important thing for President Akufo-Addo to do is to relieve his jocular vice president, Alhaji Bawumia, from his position as head of the economic management team. The one so-called solid economic management team has now become a gaseous team who have deserted their roles and are nowhere to be found in these difficult and critical times.
Well, the news on that note is done and dusted, but stay with us. Up next, the news review. Well, thank you for staying with us this holiday. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. And time now for us to dig into the papers. Quite a bit of them for a holiday, so we shall make do. Later we'll be joined by Dr. Abu Sakara Foster. But in the meantime, let's check out some interesting tidbits that have been happening between yesterday and today. And I'd just like to put forward for your reflection that latest talk, and of course it was intimated by the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, about the Ghana card being used as a document for voting in election 2024, or at least a source document, whether you're going to use it to vote or otherwise, especially for those who are going to turn 18 and moving forward. It would be interesting to know what your thinking is on that. And I'll be running that by Dr. Abu Sakara Foster, National Interest Movement founder, who joins us for the news review. Doc, a very good morning to you. All right, so we'll get to Dr. Abu Sakara Foster shortly as he connects with us. But that's one of the things I'd like to run by you. And of course, that latest Bloomberg report, which talks about our country being the second highest globally in terms of defaulting or the risk of defaulting on our loans. Doc, can you hear me now?
Good morning. Yes, can you hear me?
I can. I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent.
So I was putting forth that suggestion now given some backing by Deputy Electoral Commission Chair Dr. Bosman Asare that, yes, the Ghana card is going to be a source document, if you can call it that, for election 2024 and maybe moving forward. What's your quick reaction to that?
Well, the first thing I'll say is bring me my stone. Because if you remember, the last time we had an interview off air, I told you that this is where things will move to eventually. I don't know whether you recollect that.
I may not, but since you made mention of it.
Yeah. But anyway, I think the first thing is that, you know, with all the issues we've had with the electoral card and phone registration of phone SIM cards.
Right.
I would have thought that, you know, this would be approached a bit more cautiously, and let's finish one before we start the other. But in principle, I don't see anything wrong with it, except the mechanics of how it was done and the transparency with which it was been done. Right from the outset, you should have told people that, look, this Ghana card is going to be a source document for voting. In fact, we may even vote on our phones. You know, then maybe the enthusiasm would be there for people to go out and do it more quickly. Now, as it is now, my feeling is that there will be a lot of suspicion because some people have always suspected that this might be the case. But the important thing is for it to be done properly and transparently. And I think even though it's a bit late in the day to come out with this, it would have been good if it had been said earlier on so that the transparency and trust will be there for everyone to go out and get registered as quickly as possible. Now, the other issue is, you know, one, are we now saying that the Ghana card will have backing it a consolidated database for use on all services in Ghana? And if that is the case, then we should approach it in such a way that even deaths and registry are linked to it so that we know when people have died that they're taken off the records. This will also help us in the ghost names on salaries, etc.
But I think that has been the plan. I recall the vice president saying back then, suggesting that basically even babies would get the card. You know, you would get a number. Then when you're old enough for your biometrics, when your biometrics are fully formed, then they are taken. Then you get the actual card. And so from the cradle to the grave, you have a number that identifies you, which is what happens in other jurisdictions, by the way. I mean, apart from that, there are other ways of identifying one's dental structure and all of that. But I guess that is what we're trying to implement.
Well, if we had, again, just approached it directly that way from the beginning, would have saved ourselves a lot of money. Because if you remember, this is not the first time this idea is coming. Right from the beginning, even under the NDC, when we had the first registration of national identification cards, we argued that let's build this as a central database for all services. But during that period, up till now, so many different organizations have kept their own databases. And that has cost a lot of money. The way in which the data was collected right from the beginning, if we had decided, would have been done differently so that we would have been able to use it for multiple purposes. So I think this, again, is an area where there can be a lot of improvement, but let's approach it transparently, let's approach it deliberately, and let's plan for it that way so that the different databases can then be merged onto it. But it depends on how that data is collected. If it's collected with missing fields, it cannot be merged when there are missing fields in it.
Let's quickly talk this, and then I'll bring in another issue concerning the Electoral Commission. Or maybe I should bring that one first, since it still dovetails into the same matter. So the Electoral Commission has said that it will withdraw the licenses of some political organizations that do not meet certain standards. We all know, now that there's been the creation of extra regions, 6 of them, political parties, especially the smaller ones, are going to struggle to be in every district and all of that, have party offices and more. The question is, how would you suggest they go about such a situation? You are not, you're not a newbie when it comes to the political system and competing in political, presidential elections. How would you suggest the EC go about this? Because you want political pluralism or plurality, but at the same time, some of the parties are clearly not meeting the standards as we have them. What is the way forward?
I think, first of all, right is right, wrong is wrong. We have to stand with the EC on this matter to ensure that all political parties meet the requirements for registration as political parties. We can't have, not even briefcase, but envelope political parties, parading in national elections. Having said that, yes, we do want inclusion. So that means that we have to change the electoral laws in such a way that either you have political party funding for political parties based on certain clear criteria. You collect 100,000 signatures, for example, I'm just saying an example, in all the regions, and then you are able to get political funding to maintain at least the minimum of those offices that you require. The second issue then is to ensure that those people are properly trained and they meet the right qualifications. It's not just a matter of offices. Who is occupying those offices? What caliber of people are occupying those offices? And we have to take a leaf out of China's, electoral process, where they've made it very clear that they have selection and then election. And if we want the caliber of our democracy politicians to improve, we have to have a method of them meeting certain basic criteria and then elect from within them. So by introducing this political funding, you can set some parameters where at least you get a basic type of caliber of person in there. Right. You train them also, and then you have the election based on those people. Furthermore, if you really want to have inclusion, then you can go to formation of coalition governments and even more than that, have proportional representation so that from a broad cross-section of these people, you can have the kind of inclusion that would mean we as Ghanaians are using all our human resources in government instead of using only one set of human resources who only come to undo what the other set of human resources have done. This, what would I say, antagonistic system, which we've turned it into, is not meant to be that way, but that's in principle what it has become. It's not necessarily the best way for us to go. And we have had experience of that. We can improve it. These are some of the reasons why we keep arguing for these fundamental reforms, even in the electoral laws, to allow that inclusion and to allow that system that will bring about getting the best of us into governance.
Interesting thoughts there. I've never asked you this, so just to chip in right before we get into the papers, just a very quick one. We moved from Founders Day, I always like to refer to it with an apostrophe S, and now we have Founders Day with an S apostrophe. What does that mean to you from September the 21st, Nkrumah's birthday, to August the 4th? And the ping pong of, for example, the opposition has threatened that should they come back to power, they would also make some of these changes. Republic Day, for example, is no longer what it used to be. Just a quick thought on that before we get into the Daily Graphic.
Well, I think, first of all, let me just be plain. I may be coming from a biased point of view, bearing in mind my political tradition. But if I set that aside and just talk purely from a national point of view, there's nothing wrong with having a founder. Many people in many countries are recognized as founders sole founders of countries because of the role they played. And we all know nobody played the kind of role that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah played, both in Ghana here and abroad. Now, having said that, it does not mean that it is to the exclusion of all other contributions for founding those nations. After all, some nations were founded in war. Did the person go in battle alone? No, you know. So at the end of the day, I think the argument for it is a very weak argument. Secondly, I think it stirs something deep in the soul of this nation, which is unhealthy. The rivalry between the Busia Dankwa group and the Nkrumah's group. They want to make this rivalry of our grandfathers the rivalry of current and future generations.
How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? Do you feel some actions have unnecessarily stoked this?
No. My point of view is that, you see, how I feel as an Nkrumahist is different to how I feel as a Ghanaian.
Right.
As an Nkrumahist, I find it very irritating, very annoying. But as a Ghanaian, I can see where they're coming from. But it still does not merit what they're doing. And because if you look at it from a nationalist point of view, it is unhealthy to have a rivalry that was our grandparents' rivalry, becoming a future fight for generations yet unborn. Let's bury the hatchet. There's one founder, that is Kwame Nkrumah. Other people played a role. Let's recognize the roles they played. Right now, even, we're talking about the rehabilitation of the mausoleum. Now, there are many people who are up in arms about the section of the mausoleum that is going to be called the Freedom Walk. And the recounting of opponents of Nkrumah, not just opponents, some of whom actually, you know, were antagonistic towards him and tried to assassinate him. On the grounds of his death. Now, if that is not provocation, what else is it? You know? Now, there's other places that can be done, but not on those grounds. In addition to that, once that is done, you then stoke up the feelings that this is a deliberate exercise, and then other people start bringing up negative issues about some of those characters.
Right.
Then the questions are asked, should we have people that could have been easily convicted of treason, some of whom were convicted of treason at the advent of independence and our newborn nation on that freedom walk? Should we have people who argued against getting independence and were recalcitrant in that process as part of that walk to freedom? You start getting these kind of questions coming up. So I think we need to take a very sensible approach to this and let sleeping dogs lie. We have a founder of the kingdom who is Kwame Nkrumah. We are not saying he's perfect, he didn't have any flaws, no. We're accepting the role he played. We accept the role other people played and recognize them in their own categories, but not to compound issues by combining them together in such a way as to create grounds for resentment from one group or another. As I said previously before,
and just to wrap
at the advent of independence, we sowed seeds of hope, but there were also weeds that were sown on that day. If we are not careful as a nation, the weeds will grow and overcome the farm.
That's quite a telling statement you end with. If we're not careful, the weeds will overgrow, and come and overtake the farm. That's an interesting bit. But just staying there, on page 13 of the Daily Graphic newspaper, today is Founders Day. It depends on how you want to look at it, with an apostrophe S or an S apostrophe. Whichever way, it's Founders Day. And 2 university lecturers have challenged Ghanaians to emulate the examples of the founding fathers of the country in order to imbibe the spirit of nationalism. They said the present generation of Ghanaians needed to be selfless and optimistic and work towards a common purpose for the nation, as the founders did in the fight for independence. Now, the NDC thinks Founders Day in essence is very important, but it believes a nation that does not honor its heroes is not worth dying for. In fact, Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno, also in an interview on the day, said this year's Founders Day was clouded with some level of confusion in the minds of Ghanaians as to whether it was celebrating the known founding father who actually led the struggle for independence or a group of people. A political science lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba, Dr. George Asekre, and a lecturer and communications specialist at the University for Development Studies, Jamila Tusaka Dramani, were speaking in separate interviews with the Daily Graphic on Founders Day. Dr. Asekre, for example, said Founders Day was worth celebrating, but called for a national consensus on the celebration to make it more meaningful. So thoughts that you've already espoused also being shared here as well. But police nab 4 armed robbers after sustained intelligence. Story on page 13 of the paper as well. And the police have arrested 4 persons who allegedly embarked on a robbery that led to the death of 2 persons at Asaman Tamfo in the eastern region. The suspects are Moro Sado, Aliu Osmanu, Elvis Kwesi, and Isaka Abdul, alias Baba Liman. The Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service, Chief Superintendent of Police, Grace Ansah-Akrofi, who disclosed this in a release, said the arrests of the suspects followed 9 weeks of sustained intelligence-led operation after the robbery. Now, the robbers, numbering 7, had attacked a gold buying company at Asaman-Tamfo on May 27 this year, shot and killed the security man on duty, Kenneth Ampim, and robbed the company of an unspecified amount of money. Let me just add this story and then I'll let you respond with any thoughts that you have on them, Doc. Let's go to page 20 now. Quickly to page 20. And we'll take a look at that story. Ghanaian makes breakthrough in HIV cure. And a breakthrough research and drug composition for a more effective treatment of HIV has been made. The research, which was done in 6 years, found new targets in the HIV virus that drugs can be developed in the treatment of the disease. The research was undertaken by a senior lecturer at the Department of Chemistry of the University of Ghana, Legon, Dr. Jerry Joe Harrison. According to him, drugs targeted specific proteins in the virus, saying, quote, "This one we never knew, and now that we know, we can use it to develop more effective drugs against HIV." So some, at least, development in the fight against the human immunovirus. Quick reactions to that, Doc.
Well, I think the story on HIV is very heartening. I think it's good at this time when we are so gloomy to have a good story come out and lift people's hearts. I would, however, emphasize that this, of course, should be published in well-recognized journals and accepted globally before we start using such treatments, in the general public. And I'm sure, haven't heard where the research is coming from and the manner in which it was approached. I'm sure that will be the path that it will take. But congratulations to the researchers. I've always maintained that Ghana has some of the best technocrats on the African continent, and some of them are global standard. It's just unfortunate that our system does not allow us to deploy them in the most effective manner to make their contributions more felt in the national project. So congratulations to him, and we wish them well.
Okie doke, so let's also take a look at the Sunyani Airport Phase 1 project inaugurated, and President Akufo-Addo has inaugurated the first phase of the rehabilitated Sunyani Airport with an assurance that the government is working to make the country an aviation hub in West Africa. On the back page, let me just wrap with some sports and tough luck, yet some also good news in there. So Kome targets gold medal in boxing, and featherweight Joseph Kome, who comes from an illustrious boxing family, says his quest to win a gold medal at the ongoing Commonwealth Games is on course following a unanimous 5-0 win over New Zealand's Alex Makuka yesterday. Kome's qualification to the penultimate round in the featherweight division secured Team Ghana a medal at the Games, with the 18-year-old set to return home with at least a bronze. But it was heartbreak for Benjamin Azamati. Ghana's sprint sensation, Benjamin Azamati, almost picked a bronze medal in the men's 100-meter final yesterday, but missed out on the finish line to place fourth in a time, or with a time of 10.16 seconds, as Kenya's Ferdinand Omanyala stormed to a gold medal in a time of 10.02 seconds. And that is the latest there. Now, going into the competition as the second-ranked athlete in the Commonwealth over 100 meters with a personal best of 9.90 seconds, Azamati was fancied to win a medal in a field that included the defending champion Akani Simbini of South Africa and the stocky Kenyan, who is Africa's fastest man, with a personal best of 9.77 seconds. Any reactions before we move on?
Well, yes, I think first of all, we need to congratulate those athletes who've done so well. This is an opportunity for them to compete on a, well, I wouldn't say a global stage, because it does not include some of the very powerful countries that we know, like the US and Russia. But still, it gives them an opportunity to compete, and I hope that they will improve and get better and prepare themselves for these bigger stages in due course. But they should be given the accolades that they deserve. On the security front, on the article that you mentioned, of course, this is a worrying development to have so many incidences that are happening. And in as much as we need to congratulate the efforts of the police in dealing with this more effectively in recent times, there's also the matter of the public sometimes, reporting some spurious incidences. For example, this week, it was reported that, in Mepasem, in Bipe, some terrorists had kidnapped some women. And then the story turns out to be totally false. So I think the public need to be careful in what they, repeat and put on social media and create alarm, because that would also involve deployment of police resources.
Right.
And that only makes it thinner on the ground, and when they should be attending to real matters. So, yes, we should be looking out and reporting, but also we should be telling things we've actually seen.
Doc, let's wrap with three stories, hopefully in 3 minutes. Two of them from the Ghanaian Times newspaper, one from the Daily Guide. And I'll start with review free SHS policy to address challenges. Let's get into that story. The free SHS policy should be reviewed to address the challenges facing it, Professor Peter Quartey, director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research of the University of Ghana, has said. He said issues of feeding and accommodation affecting the implementation of the program should be addressed to ensure its success. That is one story. The second story on page 16. So the first is the review of free SHS, Professor Peter Quartey. But the second story, 16,000 mental patients roam streets, no funds to confine them to hospitals for treatment, and health experts suggest setting up of mental health fund to deal with the problem. And the Chief Executive Officer of the Mental Health Authority, Professor Akwesi Osei, has attributed the lack of funds to the presence of nearly 16,000 mentally challenged patients in the streets. Why is it so important, apart from all the different dynamics, Doc? Recently, at the Kwame Nkrumah interchange, some mentally challenged person killed another person with a rock. It was in the papers yesterday. Hit the person on the motorbike and then went on to smash the person's head, so to speak. This happened because we have mentally incapacitated, so to speak, people roaming the streets freely. And if they attack you, they attack you. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. So review free SHS. 16,000 mental patients roaming the streets. And finally, in the Daily Guide, this very sad story on page 6. 6 noosed KNUST students caged after gang rape. I don't know whether you followed that story, but it appears they may have done something that would lead to their spending a long time in the can. And 6 students of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology have been arrested in Kumasi for allegedly gang raping a first-year student of the university. The incident took place on July 24, 2022 at about 11:40 p.m. and police said the suspects took the victim to a nearby hostel at Ayeduase and raped her. I don't want to go ahead with the names. It still is an allegation. But what do you make of these stories as we wrap?
Well, I think the first one on the mental patients is a very serious one. The fact that we have that many mental patients roaming our streets is also an indictment on us, because the civility of a nation is determined by
how we
the care and dignity you treat the least in our population.
Right.
And these patients, we have to dissociate the stigma associated with them and see them as fellow human beings who are actually sick. Just because they may look healthy and be walking bodily does not mean that they are not sick. They're very sick. In fact, it's one of the worst forms of sickness that you can have, because in other forms of sickness, you can at least help yourself. In this particular case, you can't. So it is up to the society that you live in to make available the funds.
Right.
We have so many organizations, and this is where sometimes I also want to encourage government to regulate the NGO sector and manage it better, so that we can direct some of the resources where we have real needs, instead of having a plethora of NGOs in one particular area and over-concentrated, and in other areas we do not have the kind of support that we need over and above what government provides. Now, having said that, that is not a substitute for government itself making available those allocations and making a bigger effort to ensure that we provide those resources to them. I know it is not a vote-winning, service, but I think it is a spirit-elevating service that will lift the spirit and dignity of all of us, not just the patients themselves. So I would greatly advocate for this. Of course, there are individual people who take care of mental patients. I know one person who on their own has been making a lot of effort in finding mental patients, bringing them to a center, bathing them, cleaning them up, clothing them, and giving them a place to stay. But of course, they're not professionals in dealing with the medical ailments. They can just provide the basic care. And sometimes even that is enough. Some of these people have been pushed over the edge because they feel nobody cares. And when they get that care, some of them begin to recover, but you still need the professionals to deal with this.
Okay, so Doc, we can do one more issue, and then we can hang our boots on this. So one more issue.
The NUTS issue. Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't have all the details, and this is a situation of such gravity.
In fact, this is the second that we've seen in a short space of time at the same institution.
Yes. Now, what it tells you is that there is something going on in the culture of the university amongst the male students. And I think we all know what this is.
So you're suggesting there is some sort of rape culture in our universities, and maybe specifically KNUST?
There is a male culture associated with people first getting their freedoms, and then they want to do certain things in excess, and prove that they are the ones who can do A, B, C, D. And this is associated with these groupings that you have in halls, and sometimes they have these rituals and indicting people or introducing people into those rituals and those kinds of things. It all seems harmless when they're having fun, but then this could be the end result of some of those things. So I think we need to look at that very carefully within those universities, especially the deans of the halls, and see how we can influence this culture better to avoid these kinds of situations, because it may not, that simply arresting them may not cure that.
Right. Interesting dynamics, very important points you've made. And we're so grateful, Doc, that you took the time to join us this morning to dissect the newspapers. We wish you the best of the holidays.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that has been my interaction as far as we've reviewed the papers with Dr. Abu Sakara Foster of the National Interest Movement. Up next, we're serving you sports. I've already given you a teaser of some of what you can expect, but my colleague Nathaniel Atto is standing by and ready to serve us the sports up next on the AM show. Do stay.
Making us your preferred when it comes to the big conversations and the big interviews. We're here on JoyNews, Joy 99.7 FM, and of course, Joy Prime. Today, I'm bringing you a sit-down conversation with one man who sure has made his mark as a footballer and is now towing a path to make another mark, a major one of that, with his coaching career. We all do remember him with his exploits with the national under-17 team of Ghana, the Black Starlets of 1991, who conquered the whole world and brought Ghana's very first trophy, which was to be replicated in the year 1995. Of course, he went ahead to do a lot in terms of his professional career and is one of Ghana's pioneers in the Italian Serie A. Played his football with the likes of Udinese, where he eventually became captain, and also made some very major landmarks, which we'll be talking about later on. Of course, in terms of major moments with the Black Stars, everybody remembers him from that special center-to-goal kick, which Ghana recorded against Tunisia at the, the Africa Cup of Nations back in 1998 in Burkina Faso. All of these and more have shaped up his career, which has seen him go into coaching and venture into territories where many people see as very difficult. He went back to his boyhood club, RTU, to support, and now has found himself with newly qualified in Swatraman FC from the...
It's actually true, because it's something, I mean, you learn already from playing. I mean, when you want to venture into playing football, you need to start becoming the leader on the pitch.
I see.
You know, gradually you see yourself becoming knowledgeable about the game, which I think it gives you the impact of what you will become in the future.
Wow, interesting stuff there. Would want to relive some of the very big moments with you in the Black Stars. I'm sure people still meet you and talk about Burkina 98, when you struck that ball from the center and it beat the goalkeeper to score. I mean, that was an impossible one.
Always. When I meet fan-loving people outside there, the only thing they remember me of is either the Italian 91, the Caesar kick, or the long shots from the center to goal.
It must bring you a lot of fulfillment, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels good. It actually feels good. It brings back good memories of the Black Stars and the way we used to be and the way we loved the game and we played with passion. Just try to become heroes of today.
I mean, during your time, you were set to be among the set of some of the finest players we had that never featured at the World Cup. Between that time and now, today, we've recorded 4 qualifications for the FIFA World Cup. Ghana has another opportunity to show it and do it again. What are your thoughts, especially considering that when we had the last opportunity in Brazil, things didn't go very well?
Well, it's a pity. It's a pity that things didn't go well. I mean, it's a generational thing. You know, when you look back at 1992, especially the group of the Senegal 92 team, there has never been a club that looks good with big named players like that. But at the end of the day, we didn't go to World Cup. So it's a generational thing. And then coming to see these young lads made it fourth, and we're getting, is it the fifth one now?
This is our fourth.
This is a fourth one now, and I mean it's amazing.
Well, how do you assess the possible performance? I mean, back in 2006, many were those who doubted because we were making a maiden appearance, but now you see a new crop of players who are going to mix up with a few old lads. Otuado is in there. He played in 2006, and he has a fair idea of what it looks like. What are your thoughts on that one as well?
Well, it's a bit worrisome looking at the caliber of players we have today. You can see that most of the players are coming from a low divisional clubs, even though football can be something that surprising. I also have it at heart, knowing the group we're in to play for the preliminaries, and it's worrisome. But I just hope the technical team will do their work well, not rush into things, and then we'll see it through the first round, and then we can pick up from there.
Well, some players, of Ghanaian descent, have managed to switch nationalities and play. It's generated great conversations. There are those who feel that we need the best quality from all over the world. How well do you see all of this in terms of the way they can gel with each other and play as a unit? I mean, we don't have enough games to the World Cup as we would have wanted.
You use the right word, gel. And that is a very, very difficult thing. And gelling up with co-colleagues is something that takes a little bit of time.
Okay.
And with the Black Stars and our rampant way of changing the players that get to play together has been too much. And this is something I think that will a little bit weigh on us, because we should understand that the national team should be a team on its own.
Okay.
So therefore, if we are a teammate and then we play few matches together, and then the next time you don't see me, you get to meet a new player, this person becomes a new person to you.
Well, if you just joined us, we're still here having this one-on-one conversation with the legendary Mohamed Gago, who's now been confirmed as head coach of newly qualified in Swatreman FC, who are looking forward to making a major bit of impact in the Ghana Premier League upon their very first entry. We'll be talking about that in a bit, but we're still, lurking around the issues of the national team, the Black Stars. Sometimes when you look back and, observe what has happened over the period, how do you feel, considering that with all the quality that you guys have, you were not able to win at a senior level, you were not able to win like a major trophy, like the AFCON, for instance?
Yes, there were a little bit of issues concerning, if I may put it this way, disagreements between players, big name players, I may say. I think when we came down, some didn't want to voice out, to say the truth about what transpired.
I see.
We at that time were the youngsters in the team, so we just have to take ourselves off the radar of the big name players.
Okay. And this was in 1992?
This was 1992.
Okay.
I mean, there was a conflict, and I think it's a personal conflict between the former captain, Abedi Pele, and some other colleagues. So there was a little bit of confusion. That's my opinion. That's brought everything into camp, and the reason why we're not able to, because I believe some players didn't give their best.
I see.
Yes, because of certain issues.
I see. Well, massive revelations also being made here with this conversation. And, okay, if I do the count, I'm not doing so well. Let's take a seat. You, at a certain point, decided to venture into, coaching. And you have, you've managed to carve a certain niche for yourself. Let's begin with that decision to go to RTU, your boyhood club. At the time, RTU needed a lot of stability and restructuring, and you took that decision. I mean, what really informed it?
I mean, it's a great thing being a player and another being a coach. When I came back from Europe, you know, I'd wanted to play for my mother club a season or two, but then I realized RTU were in the lower division. So I went to my manager, Mr. Kujufiano, and said, I want to end my career in Ghana. He said, oh, well, I am still with Ashanti Gold, so let's just see what we can do. Immediately, he invited me in. I was registered and all that.
Let's zero in now on Nswatreman FC. They obviously have made very big headlines, especially after that big feat of qualifying from a very, very concentrated zone of Ghana's club football, and you know, a place where people's hearts are virtually tied to the ball that is being kicked. First of all, what went into the decision to accept to work with a club that had just, you know, arrived in here? Because that one also comes with its own challenges and its own toughness.
Yes, I know. I mean, football in any other level is football. And to showcase what you know is all about getting yourself into the areas where you will have challenges. Other than that, you always remain the mediocre kind of a coach that will go around coaching small clubs here and there. I love challenges, and I love criticism.
You love criticism?
Yes, I love criticism. When you criticize me, makes me feel there is something going wrong with what I'm doing. Therefore, I need to sit up. And what are you doing to me? You're not killing me, you're making me a better person. So I'll go back home, go back to my drawing board, and try to find out where I've gone wrong. So with the acceptance of the premier side club like Nswatreman, it's something that I have been waiting so long.
I see.
Yes, because you know, in Ghana, mostly when the new clubs come or qualify into Premiership, the next season they are back again. And this is one of the things I want to avoid. So we are going back to start training and train hard. And I think all these things comes from lack of time of preparation.
Okay.
Or lack of adequate preparation for it. So I am prepared and I am getting myself ready. As you know, when you came, I started packing already. I am going to be on the move.
I see.
And then we're going to take the team out or in Sunyani, wherever, to try to get them into good shape and get to work.
Wow, get to work indeed. What would be the target for you? I mean, you have said that you want to stay, but staying could mean just staying in, you know, like the 13th position, you know, or even maybe like the 14th position where you are just a shade or two above the drop in relegation. Is that the kind of stay you're looking for? Mm-hmm. Or it's a kind of stay that would see you do significant things like the likes of Bichim United, who find themselves within the same zone, you know, geographical zone as Nswatreman?
Yes, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, staying means to do better than average.
Okay.
And to do better than average means you should be above the 9th position. It should be somewhere the 7th, the 6th, yeah, thereabouts.
Okay.
I mean, that's above average. And there is no promises and there is no pressure. All that we're doing is go there and get the good work done and make sure people of Nswatri will enjoy the game they come to watch, and the club management will enjoy what we are doing and what we are putting on the ground for the future.
I see. In terms of the material and what you will be expecting or what will hit you in the Premier League in terms of the challenges and your position, which clubs would you rate? Which clubs would you rate thoroughly? That have a chance in making it or giving Nswatreman a tough challenge in the league? I mean, you've been monitoring.
Yes, there are a few clubs like, of course, House of Oak, clubs like Kotoko. I'm saying this because of experience-wise. They are old enough to be the great-grandparents of Nswatreman, isn't it? Yeah. And the experience is the best teacher, they say. So, apart from these clubs, I think every other club should be on the level of Nswatreman, because I prepare my team in a such that not all the matches are equal and not all the matches are the same. The approach of each and every match is totally different.
I see.
Yes.
Now, in terms of material as well, what do you make of the moves? We've seen maybe the likes of Augustine Okra, for instance, get a deal in Tanzania. He's gone. He's not going to be in the Ghana Premier League next season. So one bit of quality gone. Possibility of not having a Tuga here, for Kotoko for the next season, very, very high. And many others in other clubs. How do you feel about that especially when you talk about a lot of consistency?
Well, it is good, provided when they get to where they're going, they are going to perform. The performance is what matters. When you go there and you don't work, it weighs back onto us. We want to see them go out there and become somebody, go out there and keep working, go out there and keep having the match rhythm into their system. And with that, when they do well, they can be called at any time and they will be ready at any given time.
Interesting stuff there. Well, this is that conversation with the man, Mohamed Gago, who has taken up a new challenge in the Ghana Premier League, returning as a head coach, this time with Nswatreman, who have just qualified for the Ghana Premier League. We'll just wrap it up here, and we're going to be doing some more, especially going to relive the big moments in your album. But let's talk about you and your relationship with management and the board, and what you make of the club and its setup, relatively as a Division 1 side, looking at the kinds of structures that clubs have on a general scale.
Well, it's a good one. I mean, they mean business. The owner is a businessman, a politician, and he knows what he wants. And that is why he's ventured into putting up all what he has done for the people of Nswatreman. And I believe and I know Nswatreman is going to become one of the best clubs in the country in the near future.
I see.
Yes, we are just kickstarting, but definitely, big name players are going to be traveling all over Africa to want to come and play for Nswatreman because of the structures and the plans they are putting down for this club. This club is going to have a very, very good future.
Great stuff there. All right. What's also the future plan for you? I mean, you obviously would want to move on to other things, but you just started. What will be the projection, your relationship with Nswatreman? Away from, obviously you've signed a contract, but yes, away from that as well, what do you want to do in terms of the relationship you have with the club?
Well, they've gotten me on board as a coach for now, but we'll see what the future holds. And I would also want to link them to my former clubs in Europe, to have this affiliation thing going on between us and them, and if possible, we can even organize some summer tournaments in which we'll take all these boys out there to go and enjoy themselves and play. And if any other clubs sees a star among them and you want to pick them, I mean, why not? I mean, this is the way all of us went through.
I see.
Yes.
What will be your message to the people, the fans of the club, and those who have vested their interest or have invested their hearts into the club as you embark on the start of this journey?
Well, I know them very well, and I know how passionate they are about the club and how they want the club to get to the higher levels. So I'll only have to tell them to have a little patience, especially with these young lads that we are moving from Division 1 to Premier. Some are going to start it very slow, and some will get onto their feet immediately.
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show this holiday. And of course, we're talking about a critical matter. Corruption, yes, but from the angle of cheating in examinations. That is becoming something that we find across the spectrum, different angles or aspects of our educational system. But the question is why, and how do we get out of this on the back of this latest, report, if you want to put it that way. Well, our guest this morning, Frederick Isiama, is a journalist with Corruption Watch, who'll be joining us as we deliberate on this matter. We also have Dr. Clement Apak, ranking member on the Education Committee of Parliament, and Dr. Peter Anti, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. We also have joining the conversation Kwesi Nimo Jr., Programs Officer with Africa Education Watch. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Good morning.
Right.
Good morning as well.
Can I hear from Kwesi Nimo Jr. of the...
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So let's take a quick look at this, this research piece that you've put together from 2021. Give us some scope as far as this conversation is concerned. And I want you to give the scope because there are so many different angles that are addressed here, some of which we just saw live on television. But the point to be made is that we've seen this over the years. It's been happening. And now we're seeing a confirmation of what you put out last year, your report from happenings last year, feeding into this latest report that has come to the fore. What do you make of it in terms of the linkages, in terms of the same issues that we keep seeing?
Very good morning to all your cherished viewers. It's unfortunate to say that this is not new. It's exactly what we've been saying over the years. And this is just video evidence of what we've been talking about. And this is just one aspect of it. This is the malpractices that happen in schools, perpetrated by students on one side, and then school management, teachers, compromised WAEC officials, security officials, and then even the security of schools who handle the gates and then give access to persons who enter the school, even up to the examination centers. So this has been ongoing for years, and to say it is a huge conglomerate or it's a very huge cartel, the examination malpractice business is a multi-million Ghana cedis business, which has been ongoing for years. But as I said early on, This is just the malpractice aspect. The question leakages also happen online. But before the questions will leak, there are some WAEC officials or some security personnel who have been compromised within the system who aid for the questions to leak, for those online to also have access to the questions that leak. And the schools engage in this malpractice on two fronts. Some who have foreknowledge, and then also those who, whether the questions leak or not, have subject teachers on standby who, when the questions are shared in the examination hall, solve, distribute to students, or invigilators on standby to teach these students when the examinations are ongoing.
So these are similarities that we've seen and very worrying. But let me move on now to have an interaction as well with the representative from Corruption Watch. Now, again, I'll put that question to you about the linkages that we see, Frederick. You would notice that if you look at the Africa Education Watch report as per 2021 and what you've put together, a lot of what we saw then has been replicated in this current, reportage that you've put forth. Of course, this time caught live on video. But how did it strike you, coming forth with this information? Were you in any way surprised at the developments?
Okay, thank you very much. So, in terms of the similarities, yes, there are similarities. But what we sought to do at Corruption Watch was to say, okay, this happens. We see it in reports. The WAEC chief examiner, his reports always say it. We've heard Africa Education Watch say it. They've done their monitoring. WAEC, when they are releasing reports, will give statistics who engage in malpractice and all of them. But we wanted for the first time to show this in visuals. Let people see how exactly it happened. And that was the motivation for going to do this. The surprising bit of it for me when I was on the field was how it happened at All for Christ, for instance, where people are writing on board for the students to copy. I knew about the photocopying of the material, so they solve the questions and they pass on photocopied material. So the students can have the paper on their desk and look on it and copy. But to be bold enough to stand in front of the student, put the whole thing on a board, and then somebody else is watching to see whether a WAEC official is coming or not, was one of the things that struck me. The other aspect is that our work reveals that...
But when you say that struck you, it isn't a novelty, Frederick. I mean, it is something that we've heard of time and again. Students, in fact, teachers collaborating with students to do these things, and sometimes, even keeping watch so that supervisors from WAEC and others would not catch them, in any snare, and sometimes even supervisors themselves implicated. So why did it come as a surprise to you?
No, so like I said, I expected it to be a little bit more, to be a bit more careful about it. Yes, if you've given it to the student to copy from a sheet of paper, that looks like, okay, it's normal. Some of us have seen that before.
Right.
But to the extent of writing it on a board, and everybody is sitting down copying as if you are giving notes in a normal class, for me was a bit striking and disturbing. But the other aspect was that our work reveals that this whole scheme starts right from the admission of students. So these schools advertise that if you come here, it is your last stop. And in the conversation that our agent had with the headmaster of All for Christ, he said that, you've been writing math and you are failing. Well, here is the last stop. Same assurance was given at Diadaso #1. So that bit also is something that we brought out to show that the whole thing starts even from admission. And it's not just when you are in school that they wait for you to get to third year and then do this for you, but they can also promise that they will help you to pass, which then becomes a point of attraction for you to join their school.
Let me also bring in our Member of Parliament on the committee, the Education Committee of Parliament, who joins the conversation. So here is this new dynamic, and for you, I'm sure it is nothing new. I'll be getting back to Frederick for more details. But the point is, we see this time and again as far as our educational system is concerned. And more worryingly, when it comes to the WASI, which now seems to be where people are targeting. I want to take off from where Frederick left off in terms of this being your last stop. You know why? Because a lot of these schools, especially those focusing on resitting exams or taking the NOVDEC, which now has been scrapped, so to speak. Dr. Pak, now, a lot of them made these promises. This is your last stop. After you come here, there's no resitting this exam. And all of them are operating. This clearly shows that a lot of them have ways and means of making these students pass. But are you surprised in any way that it goes this far, to the point where time and again, they get these exam questions, solve them with the students, and, have them pass when ordinarily maybe they wouldn't have passed?
Well, I would not be fair to myself if I say that I am surprised. And I'm not surprised because I've taken a personal interest in WAEC administered examinations and associated issues. And I've also taken the time to monitor and to study and to read reports put out by various stakeholder institutions in the educational space. And so I am not. And it is very unfortunate because it is evident that this is a now well-established, institutionalized, corrupt system with many different participants. So I am not surprised, but what worries me is the laxity and sometimes blatant refusal by the very institutions who ought to be leading the charge for us to address this unfortunate development.
Which institutions in question? Which institutions are you referring to?
Well, let's begin with WAEC itself. WAEC has had a tendency to always be defensive when these matters come up. When organizations like Africa Watch, Institute of Educational Studies, and now Corruption Watch, when they come up with their reports and they show the evidence, and sometimes they are even able to give specific details about how this happens, where it happens, those who participate from the onset, from the beginning of, setting the questions, printing the questions, transporting the questions to the various examination centers, the role of the school, the role of the headmaster, the role of the invigilators, the security agencies. Why it doesn't seem to give it the same level of attention that we require? When was the last time you heard that somebody or an institution had been sufficiently penalized for engaging or being an accessory to cheating in examinations? Rather, we could turn around to try and create doubt and sometimes even threaten the institutions and individuals and think tanks, courtesy of whose hard work these issues come to our attention. So why definitely cannot be exonerated. And it's, if you know the way the system works, the ministry is involved, WAEC is involved, the Ghana Police Service is involved, in the processes. And look at the report that we just saw. And this is a tip of the iceberg. This is only 2 schools. We know that there are many, many, many institutions that, also do this. When was the last time you had the principal players, those who are actually mandated and those who are paid to ensure the authenticity and, if you like, integrity of WAEC administered exams, taking up this cause the way that people like Africa Education Watch, Corruption Watch, and even myself are taking this matter up? And what does that tell you?
So basically you're saying that the institutions, and when you say that this has been institutionalized, basically, at least on the back of what interaction I had with Frederick and others, if this has become institutionalized, and you are also pointing to the very institutions that even conduct the examinations, you've mentioned quite a number of them here. You mentioned the Ghana Police Service, and of course we know what role they play in terms of policing, in terms of preventing any access to the examination papers and all of that pre the start of the examination. We've looked at WAEC itself. Then though I am shooting this early, then it means that basically the rot starts from the very highest point, and dealing with it must start from there. But how do we go about that? Because like you say, they are always defensive.
Yes, they are. And in fact, as a matter of fact, it's not just WAEC, but even government have been very defensive. If you were to Google exam malpractices, you will see how, high-level government officials, ministers, have either played it down or even blatantly denied in the face of hard evidence. So we need a much more robust and holistic approach. And that is why, for example, we have filed a private member's motion in Parliament asking for a bipartisan parliamentary committee to be formed to look into this matter of examination malpractices for the last 10 years, so that we can see the trends and look at the emerging threats, so that collectively as a nation, we can begin to look at a much more realistic way of addressing this. Because those who are in charge and those who ought to make sure that, WAEC administered examinations in Ghana have integrity are the very same institutions, or if you like, elements from the same institution who are supposed to do what they ought to do in the public interest to ensure that the exams that our students write, the grades that they get, can be grades that we can all be proud of, are actually doing the opposite. So when you are confronted with this type of scenario, the only other option is to find a body and bring together all stakeholders to the table for us to properly diagnose the issue and to prescribe what I believe will be a lot more far-reaching, sanctions. And if that requires, changing the current arrangements, and some have even suggested breaking the monopoly that WAEC has. Is that something? Is that a suggestion you sort of lean toward, maybe to finally bring some sanity to the system? Because for decades, WAEC has done this, and almost all the time we have issues to do with examination malpractice. So is it time now for us to break that monopoly and maybe bring in some novelty, some paradigm shift as far as this is concerned? Well, given that I am the sponsor of the private members' motion, the bill, right, I would at this point not want to show my hand. But I believe that. But I mean, you can tell us what your thinking is. I mean, it will be reflective of things you said in the past. I don't think that would injure your private members' bill in any way. I have supported the call, and that the idea of taking away the monopoly that WAEC currently possesses clearly would be a factor in contributing to the solution. That in itself is not going to be a solution. Right. That in itself, because we can bring in competitors and they could even turn out to do worse than what WAEC is doing. So
exactly,
breaking the monopoly of WAEC alone is not going to be the solution. I think ultimately the solution is going to have to be based on technology and the willingness of public officials to do the right thing. This is also a moral issue. It is also a moral issue. I mean, when you have one of the schools that, you know, we saw in the video, just look at the name of the school and the owner.
Right.
And then you think about what is going on. Cheating.
A clear departure from what the name of the school suggests.
Clearly, something is just not right.
All right. Hold for me there, Doc. Let me also bring in Dr. Peter Anti. Peter, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. I want to find out from you. So, from where you sit, how deep-seated, deep-rooted is this malaise, this illness, this festering sore of examination malpractice? And like we've seen in the video put together by Corruption Watch, it has so many facets to it, and all these are working together to ensure that students actually cheat. And put that in the context of the fact that this year, for example, Awasi is technically not a West African situation because we are sitting the exam alone. The dynamics have changed as far as the examination dates are concerned. So the likes of Nigeria, and the other West African countries that form part of the WASI have already sat their exams. On the back of COVID, we shifted our timelines, and now we're going to do it alone for the first time in a long while. What impact will this have on the results our students put out and even the credibility of saying?
All right. Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. I think that this practice of examination malpractices has been with us for a long time. It will be unfair on my part to state that it's something that just emerged in recent years. It's been with us since I think examination started, and the problem is that it is escalating, and it is escalating because in my view and
quickly, very quick point, pardon the interjection. Do you feel, for example, that over the last 3, 4, 5 years, it has been progressively worse? Just a quick thought on that before you move on.
Yes, because one, we are putting a lot of light on it. We are shining a lot of light on it, and two, the advancement in technology has made it a little more easier for people to easily spread questions and let other people have it. Because when WhatsApp was not that prominent, I mean WhatsApp, Facebook, and Telegram, it will be difficult for you to get a question in Accra, for example, and let someone in Akimoda get it within the shortest possible time. It was a little difficult. But now with technology, you just screenshot, you put it on a page, and everybody would have access to it. So I think the advancement in technology have contributed to the extent to which these malpractices are being carried out in our schools. But as I was saying, all high-stakes tests that have important relation with the test taker are meant to encounter this challenge. And that is why for us, we try to look at this problem from the perspective of demand and supply issue, and why people would want to demand this kind of questions, I mean, APO or whatever it is that we call it. And we think that they do so because the WASI seems to be the end point of people's or the decider of whether people will be able to make it in their life or they will not make it in their life. So in Ghana, for example, you know that 14 years of your life is spent in schools from KG to SHS3. If God does not help you and you fail your WASI, that is it for you. You are not able to progress anywhere. And we've said this a lot of the time. So if that is the situation, the demand for ways and means to pass an exam would be high. And that is what we are experiencing. And the more we progress and unemployment becomes a bigger issue and people complete even universities and they are not getting anywhere to go, then people would want to find ways and means to make it when they are sitting for some of these exams. So I think that is the angle that we look at it, and we think that this year, for example, as you have asked, it will be serious unless, of course, serious measures are put in place to ensure that this is brought to the barest minimum. Because, of course, now it is a Ghana thing, and we know the situation around it. Schools would want to be ranked first or second. No school wants to be last. Private schools and remedial schools are cashing in on this. And at the same time, people who are sitting for this exam, teachers would want to be hailed by their students and the parents that your course, or your subject, every student that sat for it had an A. Parents would want to be proud of their children, so they also want to find ways and means to get it. Now the performance contract that has been signed by heads of school would suggest that students that sit for these exams would have there should be an improvement in their learning outcome. So headmasters would also want to prove that our school, we are doing well. So all these challenges, coupled with the desire of the child to pass the exams, will come in and will definitely lead to people looking everywhere to get the questions.
Interesting points. Yes. You make there. Let me come to...
Can I add to that point?
Who is speaking, please?
This is Dr. Park.
Dr. Park, go ahead.
Yes, I think that the analysis that Peter has provided is very cogent. And I just wanted to add that all of this is also reinforced and exacerbated by the challenges that the students and the managers of the secondary schools are facing. Well, when you have a situation where the students are unable to complete their syllabus because they don't spend enough time in school, because they are not being properly fed, they don't even feel adequately prepared. And so the desire or the need or the influence to try and excel under all of those challenging circumstances then even enhances the effort by parents, the students, and the heads of the schools to try and procure these material to ensure that they do well.
So very good intervention there, Dr. Apak. But let me also bring in Frederick and Siama. Do you corroborate this? Because guess what? You're looking at the premium we place on the WASI, the BECE, without which you can't get to the WASI. And now, as we are talking, the WASI, without which you can't, benefit from any proper tertiary education. So Frederick, tell me, is it corroborated by the findings you are seeing and maybe the findings you've seen in recent times? Because it would appear, because of this catch in there, people like Dr. Apak is saying would do anything and everything, depending on how they benefit, as parents, as students themselves, as heads of schools, as teachers, to ensure that there is a pass rate that is appreciable. Is it corroborated by your findings, Frederick?
Yes, definitely. In a place like Diadaso, in fact, the entire community supports this. The entire community makes appeal to the school, the teachers, and all of that to help their children pass. Otherwise, they will not have the chance to go to university. So that's
so even in such an instance, it is community related corruption. All of them are in it. And how to eradicate that becomes a big problem.
Yes, definitely. In fact, there are other schools we monitored where we realized that this whole community participation was happening as well. And indeed, in some of the schools that we monitored, which we haven't named because of reason, maybe we might go back there or not, in some of those places, even some teachers who would not support this act were excluded from invigilation.
Wow. You're basically saying you have evidence to the fact that...
Nemo can corroborate this. You can corroborate this because they also found...
we also engaged certain monitors. Aside they being sidelined from invigilating, some even get sacked or dismissed because they try to report the issue to superiors or even try to poke the bear to make sure that the school stops perpetrating the act. So they are not just disallowed from invigilating during the WASI. Some even get dismissed because they don't support what is going on. One of our monitors last year mentioned that he was dismissed from one school and then he landed in the other, but then he still has eyes in the other school, through which we were able to assist Corruption Watch in their investigation. But then it goes to show the extent to which the system, the current system that we have, supports the act. It supports it because until last year, whenever issues of examination malpractice happen, examination questions leakages happen, we have WAEC on the other side being defensive, which is their regular posture. And then we have the GES, Ministry of Education, being silent. Not saying anything, but being silent. But then when the WASI results come out, we have the Ministry of Education and also GES being the first to release statements to say that students passed well during this WASI. Meanwhile, when the examination leakages were ongoing, when we had hard evidence to support that, and malpractices were also happening, they were silent. So it tells us that the posture before was not encouraging to help us salvage the situation. But it must be noted that especially last year, during our monitoring, we had a good collaboration with the ministry where the current minister expressed interest in strengthening our assessments through some of these challenges that had been outlined earlier, which is the malpractices and the leakages. So we realized that even while the examinations was ongoing, while EduWatch was doing our monitoring and coming out with certain findings as and when certain papers were written, we were able to engage the minister, through which we realized that in the subsequent BEC examination, the BNI was involved. So where we went to get questions which leaked about 8 hours, 10 hours, days before the paper, all these outlets or question marketers didn't get the questions for us again. So we got the impression that through the minister's intervention to get the BNI involved in the question distribution system, it was able to curtail the access from marketers through their compromised WAEC officials, because without the compromised WAEC officials, question marketers don't get their questions. So we realized that the BNI involvement was very helpful. So there was no online question leakages during the BEC 2021. So we also hear that this year, the same action will be replicated. But beyond that, on the malpractice issue that happened in the schools, we need to do an introspection to find out that exactly where the challenge comes from is the lack of supervision and also the strengthening of the system, because we have WAEC officials themselves being compromised by schools because they are part of the system to cheat and also perpetrate the malpractice. So although not all schools, some even don't have power, although not all schools will be able to start this initiative or this recommendation we are given, we believe that it would be a good start to introduce technology. Since technology has perpetrated or escalated the act, we believe that we need to also involve technology in trying to curb it, which is bringing in the CCTV cameras. We believe that the CCTV cameras, at where we will be able to post them, will be able to assist us get some of these hardcore evidence to be reviewed after each paper. So
you're suggesting CCTV cameras should be put installed in all examination centers? Is that what you're saying?
It is a recommendation, but we realize that we note that there will be challenges.
And who will bear the cost?
Challenges because
who will bear the cost? The institutions, the God Education Service, WAEC, who will bear the cost?
It must be a collaborative effort. So the ministry would have to support WAEC in doing this, because the ministry has showed a hand that they want to address this issue. So we believe that in as much as there will be challenges, as I mentioned earlier, certain schools write their examinations in classrooms, not examination halls. So until they get there, those that write their examinations in assembly halls and huge spaces can begin this process, so that at least for some time we'll be able to get more we'll be able to gather more evidence to put certain schools on board. And I believe that it is not only private schools that are doing this, although the private schools are into the business of bringing in even students that are not within the Form 1, Form 2 system, just register them, get them to pass.
Right.
They are in the business. We believe that when private schools, that for the two that were showed in the video, if they are stopped or closed down, it will be a drastic measure that would ensure that other private schools who are also into the same business don't continue perpetuating the act. Until we are able to put our foot on the ground to take certain drastic measures, these things won't stop. When teachers or invigilators are caught in the act or even reported and nothing is done, they feel that ongoing they can continue to do the same and nothing will be done. We make reference to a number of applications or petitions that we sent to the CID headquarters last year during the WASI with evidence we had gathered to show that questions had leaked online and all. It's been 1 year. In our last check about 2 to 3 weeks ago, nothing had been done. There had been no prosecutions. There had been no action on it. And also we realized that we weren't the only people who did that. It wasn't only Africa Education was who sent petitions to the CID headquarters. We had the WAEC also indicating
so just to wrap, Mr. Nimo, so basically, even when there is hardcore, evidence, ironclad evidence, you don't see action from the system, which could also mean that once there is no action, there will be more people who balance the risk, versus the gains and see that it is worth it to engage in these things, and so it will not stop. That's basically what you're saying, right?
Yes, because if they don't see action, if they don't see drastic measures being taken, it won't deter them. So we believe that even within the GES Code of Conduct, engaging in examination malpractice is a major misconduct. But then we realize that teachers only get suspended. We believe that it's time GES cracks the whip and dismisses teachers who engage in examination malpractice, which would also be a drastic measure which would deter other teachers who turn invigilators and compromise the system during examination.
I do know, though, moving the conversation to Dr. Apak, I do know, though, that schools that are caught in this web of, cheating in examinations suffer some consequences. If they are a center, for example, there are consequences they suffer. But there's a crucial issue I want all of you to address. Dr. Anti, Dr. Apak, Mr. Nimo, as well as Frederick Isiama. I want all of you to address this question in a minute maximum, all of you. When you look at the fact that you sit a 90-minute examination after 14 years for a number of subject areas, and that will determine your future. That will determine whether you are allowed to progress or not. Then the question of if you fail certain areas, core areas, mathematics, English language, among others, you will not progress. Is it high time we went past that? Because you would admit that there are students who may not necessarily be inclined mathematically. Of course, maybe they could get some pass grade, but they are not mathematically inclined. But maybe they are very astute in other areas and can contribute to society. How do we address that portion of the problem, which makes it an impediment? If you don't pass these areas, you will not progress. And what does that mean? That also means that people will do any and everything to ensure they pass those subjects. I'll start with you, Dr. Apak. Do we have Dr. Clement Apak with us? All right, please unmute. Please unmute, Dr. Apak. Please unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Yes, to your question, examinations have always and would always be written. Because, this is not confined to only Ghanaians or Ghanaian students. So we clearly can look to other jurisdictions for best practices and to see how we can address our own challenges. And so it is very difficult to say, for example, that because of the number of years and investments that, our wards have to make, we should not examine them. We can never do without being examined. It is a part of life, and we can't avoid it.
I do not think you got my question. The question is not about not examining them. Let me give you a context. In the German system, for example, right from the outset, at a certain basic level, the distribution starts. You get to see who is more technically inclined. They start pushing those people into technical areas of the economy. In fact, they have, just like France, a vast technical system, which is what is holding the German economy. You get it? So they push people right from the start. This person is more vocational or technical inclined. They start pushing them in certain directions. Here, everybody must go through the WASI system. And what if, for example, we said that, okay, you don't necessarily need to get this or that in mathematics or English. No matter what is your focus? Once you are heading towards your focus, and maybe it is not necessarily in that arena, maybe we can give you a waiver for mathematics or something of the sort, so that it's not a hard and fast situation where you must get this before you progress. I feel that is part of the problem. What do you think?
Yeah,
so that is what I'm addressing, not about not sitting examinations.
I get your point. And I believe that over the years, if you look at the reforms that have been championed in the educational sector, that is the clear intent. I mean, technical and vocational education, using the informal system to even assess people and certify them for them to be able to get gainful employment. So yeah, I think that is ongoing. What we ought to do is to escalate it, and perhaps rather than beginning the processes when they finish basic school, we ought to take it down to the base. We started from there. So to that extent, I do agree. But I just wanted to make a quick point. The issue of who would fund the CCTV cameras and what have you, I think it is settled. The state has to do it because as a member of the education committee, the state has to do it.
The state?
Through the Ghana Education Service. Because every year, we provide budgetary support for WAEC. And that is why just a week or so ago, the Education Committee, our leadership, had to draw government's attention to the fact that it owed WAEC for the 2021 BEC and WASI, and it ought to make that monies available and provide sufficient monies for the current WASI and coming BEC. So government has a responsibility. The state has a responsibility to resource entities and institutions to do work that is going to inure to the public good. And I think what we are calling for is the integrity of the examinations that our wards write, how competitive they are going to be if we do not address this issue of cheating.
Interesting response there. Dr. Anti, what would be your take on this, especially considering that with all of these dynamics at play, it is also clearly showing in the quality of students we get at the tertiary level. Today you go and a lot of lecturers would complain about some of the scripts they even have to mark. So how does this play out for you? Should we start streamlining, like Dr. Apak says, from a level even before BECE, like some other countries are doing? Or should we still stick to you must pass, English and mathematics and all of that? And how would that potentially affect quality at the tertiary level?
Well,
I can hear you, Peter.
Sure. Okay. So, I think that we need to first and foremost understand that the various solutions that we are trying to prescribe are all needed to be able to deal with this issue. But for me, there should be a broader policy directive, as you are saying. I feel that we need, as I think it's ongoing, we need to look at how our whole curriculum is designed at the senior high school level, and then the assessment regime that we have adopted, because it is that regime that fits into how teachers teach, and then at the end of the day, how questions are also asked. So if you are able to move from the recall kind of questioning to more of analysis, then at that stage, you are giving the student an opportunity to apply what he or she has learned. And I think that changes in the assessment regime would play a critical role here. Again, if you look at our educational reforms, as Dr. Parks said, you will see that when someone is leaving senior high school, there are two pathways for him. He's either supposed to go to the world of work or he's supposed to enter tertiary institutions. I know you agree with me that as it stands now, no secondary school student technically qualifies to enter any kind of work after senior high school. So we need to look at that also. If the person feels comfortable that at the end of the day, I can get a middle level job in any kind of institution, then I think the pressure on him would come down, and then the desire to get some of these things would also reduce. So for me, it's a more bigger policy issue that we have to look at. And this issue came up, and I think we still have to look at it. Why shouldn't everybody that completes senior high school get a common certificate, like a pass that can enable the person to pursue any kind of job that he or she wants to do? And when the person wants to now go into a tertiary institution, then the WAEC kind of system comes handy, and then the person can now use it. As we stand now, as we know, if you pick your WAEC so-called certificate, it's a transcript that you have. It's not a certificate, because that certificate has got your results on it. So at the end of the day, if you even applying and you had D, the person sees the D and says that, oh, you are not good anywhere. But you just examine the person in certain areas of his life. It doesn't mean he's a failure. So when we look at it from this perspective, and students feel that when they complete senior high school, whether there is a pass or a fail for them with the WASI, there's still an opportunity out there for them. We'll be able to see a bigger reduction in this kind of malpractice that we are talking about. Either than that, you can bring in all the measures, the CCTVs, the BNI, the police, the soldier, the military men, everybody. But people's desire to ensure that they pass will propel them to look for other avenues to still to cheat.
Mr. Siama, you came, your outfit came through with this report. Is that a tangent you feel we should go on? Is that something you corroborate? Looking at the demand factors, the facilitators and all of examination, malpractice, and what you have clearly put out there, which feeds into that. Should we have a system like this where certification is given across the board? Of course, maybe depending on the category of certification you then get from WAEC, you can pursue your studies at the tertiary level or not, but at least there are openings for you across the board, apart from, going to a tertiary institution. Is that part of the solution, do you think?
You see, it's difficult to say that is the main reason why. I will defer to the experts on this, but here is the thing. Even the NAPTEX exams, NAPTEX examination, is also being compromised.
Right.
Okay, that is for technical students, and that doesn't say that you should maybe pass maths but almost every subject in the chain is being compromised. But
it's not because is that not because we seem to have created a certain systemic problem? It's almost become cultural that you should do this. I mean, recently you would hear of the Ghana School of Law exam leaked. You would hear of entrance exams leaked. You would hear of so even if we take it outside of the context of WASI, you would realize that maybe it is more cultural, more systemic, and so everyone feels, you know what, we must feed into it if possible.
Precisely, and we at Corruption Watch believe that when people commit crimes, they should be punished. Okay, and the punishment should be deterrent. This whole business of if a school is engaged in institutionalized cheating, their center number will be withdrawn for at least a year, and then they come back as a center and they start writing again. I mean, it doesn't deter anybody, because if you take my students to another center to go and write, and they are doing it, a group of schools can still come together to compromise. So I think that I will go with the suggestion that we should look at the way we assess, the assessment approach. Because in other jurisdictions, we know that a question can be set, and you can even take your textbook there. But if you will fail, you will fail. So I think it's the approach to assessment that we should look at again. But I am sure many options exist in the various research reports, various committee reports that have been put together. I remember when President Kufuor was around there, I think the Anamwa Mensa committee that looked at the education reform. There are so many recommendations in there that we can go back and simply implement those that we have not implemented. But ultimately, people should be punished.
There's an interesting comment that comes in that I'd like to run by all of you as well, especially as we look at how this, in the context of how it could devalue the WASSCE results. And I've put it in the context that now we're on our own. So if this examination, cheating in examinations continues, then it means the value of what we even have could be highly compromised. But Carl William Rain, the first, says, I don't think the actual issues are being discussed now. You can't solve any problem without addressing the root cause. What does he think is the root cause? Currently, we have an educational system without any credible means of assessing students' performance. Students who are truants and those who fail in examinations are promoted. Nothing is done to ameliorate poor student performances when they are in school. Why complain of malpractice? Because right from the onset, at the basic level, they are groomed to perform poorly. So I think the issue is a policy failure and shouldn't be blamed on WAEC or the schools involved. I don't know how, gentlemen, you react to this, because basically this person is saying there's a fan belt and it just keeps rolling, basically churning out students to the next level, 3, 4, 5, 6, JHS 1, JHS 2, JHS 3, SHS 1. And there are no control mechanisms. But I also know that in our system, that is why we wanted to start having some assessments at class 4, at other stages, to ensure a certain benchmark. Is this a part of the problem, really? I know I have Peter Anti on board. I have Dr. Apak as well, and Frederick. Frederick, you were just making the point. Let me start with you. Do you feel that this is a part of the problem? Very briefly.
Yes, it is. And I think that we should just stop this whole stop-start approach.
Which is what?
We start something. Even the general assessment that we have been doing for these primary school students. Last year, the basic school students, I think last term or so, we had this challenge. And because of the challenge, a lot of people were saying, let's stop it. Let's not do it. It is too early to assess these kids at primary 4 and all of those things. We should just be committed to one particular approach, pick the best approach that helps our students, that helps us to develop the human resource that we got. At the end of the day, it is about training people who will run this country, who will run businesses, who will run lives of other human beings. And if we keep going the way we are going, we definitely will lose it. So I tend to agree with the suggestion that we should look at the approach again, the assessment approach. And I think there are a few experts out there who are saying a lot of things that we can pick some useful things from.
All right, your quick reaction, Dr. Apak? So you would have to unmute, Dr. Apak. You would have to unmute before you...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, what I'm saying is that I agree that we ought to take the assessments very seriously. Last year, it was started for primary 4 pupils, but originally, it is supposed to be primary 2, primary 4, primary 6, and JHS 2. And we ought to continue with that. And that really has a lot more benefits because, you know, we have not been doing well globally in terms of numeracy and literacy. Our position is nothing to write home about, which clearly shows that we have a serious problem going down all the way to the basic level. So if we can use this assessment and the results to try and address these challenges from the onset, then I truly believe that by the time the students get to the junior high school and the senior high school levels, many of the deficiencies would have been corrected. But in all of this, we must provide the needed conducive environment and make sure that the resources are available, that the facilities are up to standard to address this issue holistically. Because part of the problem and the challenge is that the conditions are not sufficient for the students on their own to be able to apply themselves fully and to do their best. And that then also triggers the need to try and cheat. And of course, we've even tried the possibility of procuring and supplying them with past examiners' questions and examination questions and examiners' reports. All these things will not be necessary if the conditions are prime for them to fully apply themselves.
Let me come to Dr. Anti on the same beat. What would be your quick thinking on that?
Well, I think that we need to follow through with the National Assessment Framework. The document is there, developed, I think, in 2000. We need to go in and look at the various modes of assessments that we have put together as a policy and see how we are implementing them. I think we have a lot of good policies in the books, and the problem is always about implementation. And if we are able to implement most of the policies that we started from the standard-based curriculum to the Common Core program and all those things that we want to do, that seems to make the teaching and learning more practical. And then we move a step further to bridge the gap of inequality that cuts across the schools, because you know that some of the schools have a lot of resources that they can clearly have access to, and that makes teaching and learning easier. In other parts of the country, they do not have some of these resources. So we move a step further to bridge that gap of inequality. I think we'll be able to get it back. As I said, for me, it's a more of a policy issue. We need to look at the assessment regime that we have, move from the knowledge recall aspect to a more of a practical analysis kind of assessment, and then ensure that all facets of the student's life is assessed. If I'm a school prefect in the school, and I'm showing leadership skills, there should be a way to capture that into my total assessment that will help me get a certain kind of grade after my education.
Right. It shouldn't necessarily be that. It shouldn't necessarily be that I didn't get an A, so I'm not worth anything. Gentlemen, to wrap the conversation, I'm going to give you 40 seconds each. I just want you to do this in reaction to another message from Carl. So as you deliver your summary comments about the way forward, I want you to factor in what Carl says here again. He says, a robust educational reform is required to bring sanity to the students' assessment space. Bring back sanctions like repetition. So you have to stay in a certain class. You don't get to move on. And possible dismissal of students with poor performance. Alternatively, government should adopt the grade point average system as pertains in the United States at the basic and high school levels, as well as university. So the grade point system. You don't meet certain requirements. You know, in the US, for example, you want to attend a certain class of institution. If you've not got a certain grade point, you will not get in there based on their system and the requirements of the institutions. I'll start with you, Mr. Nimo, of Africa Education Watch. 40 seconds each. I'll start with you, Mr. Nimo.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to say that to curb this issue, there are short and long-term measures. In the short term, we believe that dismissing or punishing offenders is critical in the short term. Because if we don't engage in punitive measures, people wouldn't be deterred. And we believe that dismissal is rather a disincentive rather than suspension. The GES has, I think, people who were found culpable in the 2020 WASI and BEC, 11 teachers were dismissed by the GES. So if that continues, it would help. That would be in the short term, where people who are found culpable are dismissed and then they face certain measures. But in the long term, we believe that not making the examinations high stakes is very important, because the high stakes nature is the reason people always want to pass. Students always want to pass. Parents want to make sure their students pass. Teachers want to ensure that their students pass. Schools want to be in the know to be producing students who pass. So in the long term, rather making it applied, making the examinations more applied rather than the test-based system, in a review of the assessment system is very, very needed and very important in dealing with the issue.
All right. Let me come to you, Clement Apak, Dr. Apak. Please unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, well, I think that very good ideas have been espoused this morning. And as a member of Parliament on the Education Committee, we have always had the opportunity to engage WAEC itself. And I must be honest that WAEC has never denied these issues, but they have tended to be defensive as far as their own rule is concerned. So all of these ideas are good, and I believe that this is one of the reasons why we have decided to file the private members' motion. So all of these can be to the committee if Parliament admits our motion. And then at the end of the day, we can have a much more holistic approach to addressing this rather very complex issue. As you can tell, it is not as simple as it looks on the surface. It is multifaceted. And so there is no single solution. We have to look at the mosaic of issues that we can put together to address the various aspects of this debacle.
Thank you, Dr. Clement Apak. Dr. Anti, and then I'll do Frederick, and it's a wrap. Dr. Anti.
Well, I would want to appeal to the moral conscience of our people. I think that we are building a society, and in building a society, we need the right caliber of people to occupy specific positions so that in the event that we need their assistance, we need their expertise, we can fall on them. Helping people to pass exams illegally would not give us the kind of people that we need to occupy these very important positions, like doctors, like teachers, like lecturers, like nurses, and all those things. So the more we encourage these students to engage in this act, the more we are destroying the human capital base of this country. I think that we need to pause a little as a country and look at how we are going on with these kind of malpractices. And if we are not careful, one day we would end up having professionals who do not have the requisite skills and knowledge to pursue or to help us do whatever we are supposed to do. So this is a moral call to the Ghanaian, and I'm hoping that we all help in our small way, as a parent, as a teacher, as an opinion leader, as a community leader, as a chief, as an assemblyman, everybody. If you realize that a school, a student, a group of people are trying to engage in this kind of act, that will question the validity and reliability of the certificate that we give them, and that will further lead to the deterioration of the quality human resource that we are building, the investment that we are making in the education sector. Please call them to order.
Thank you, Dr. Anti. Frederick Asiama, you have the final bite. You have the last bite.
Yes, so I think that I'll go with what everybody has said. I think we are all making the same point. We should just make sure that the system is working. And as Nimo said, in the short term, I think that punishment, severe punishment for people will help us address, particularly as we are having an examination. How do we resolve this matter and make sure that this year the scale of malpractice is not up to the scale that it was last year? Let's punish some people. These school authorities, for instance, at Duhai, are they going to go scot-free? The headmaster is there. We've shown his picture. His assistants are there. Who is calling any of them? Who is interdicting any of them? Who is withdrawing even the licenses? Now we have a teacher licensure system. Are we withdrawing any licenses of any teachers who are engaged in any of these? Also, I think WAEC will help us if they are transparent with the sanction system. For instance, shouldn't WAEC publish the list of invigilators that they have blacklisted, for instance, from last year's examination or from the previous year's examination, so that we all see that this is the list of people who have been blacklisted? And then I think we'll be making progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. We had Dr. Peter Anti of IFEST. We had Kwesi Nimo of Africa Education Watch. We had Frederick Isiama, journalist with Corruption Watch, and Dr. Clement Apak, ranking member, Education Committee of Parliament. All of them joining us for this conversation. Well, Jose, how about treating your family to a summer holiday in South Africa? Come journey to South Africa for a good time in our beautiful country. Get to know the locals and our languages. If you're looking to let your hair down and relax, or you're just in the mood for some fun, family-friendly adventures, South Africa has got everything you need. This summer was Zanila. Come this side and experience a holiday worth talking about. But hello, Ghana. Happy moment is here again. Let's storm World Cup Qatar 2022 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water from Casapreco Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water and text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780# and choose option 2. Follow the prompts on all networks for free. You could be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks, and more instantly. Don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water, and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform, and this advert is FDA approved. Do remember, terms and conditions apply. When we return, there's a lot more to talk about on the AM show. We'll be back.
This is an issue I think some people have been trying to blame the EC for why they did not vote for a member of parliament.
In the area.
Let's get the records clear. The Parliament of Ghana passed that district, the LI which created the district. It passed somewhere on November 10th. We had the elections December 7th. So the LI that created that particular district, it passed the parliament somewhere November 9th or November 10th, 2020. And they wrote to us, I think through either the Ministry of Local Government or Parliament itself, wrote to us to inform us. And when we got that letter, it was around either 13th or 14th. So when we got that letter, Parliament was even on recess. And once the LI created the SAR district, YC must now lay a new CI to create the constituency. How many days for you to lay for a CI to mature? 21 working days. When Parliament is sitting, 21 days. So the time Parliament passed that district, the LI that created the district, and the time we received it, Parliament was even on. So no, anyone who blames the EC for why the people there did not vote for a member of Parliament just doesn't understand. The person doesn't get it. But the EC had nothing to do with it.
But the problem...
The blame should go to Parliament.
But the problem is still there.
No, the problem is still there because, by law, by our law, a member of Parliament, for presidential election, the whole Ghana is one constituency. That's why they voted in the presidential election. But for the parliamentary, one MP cannot be voted for in two separate districts. So December 7th, Hohoi was a district. December 7, 2020, Hohoi was a district. Where Mr. Kofi Adams is also the member of Parliament.
The Buem.
The Buem, also a district. The SAL was also a district. So the people of SAL, if they had voted for the MP for Buem, or they had voted for the MP for Hohoi, that would have been an illegality. I hope you consider that.
But that's why I'm asking about what your lawyers are telling you, because I'm sure that it's come to your attention.
The Commission has taken the steps.
The group says they've petitioned you as well.
No, the Commission has taken the steps.
So what's the resolution now? Would they have to wait until 2024? Is that the resolution now?
Per our laws, when it happens that way, I know it's the next election. Unless maybe the member of Parliament at a place has died, vacated, or something. But per law, I'm sure it's going to be the next election. The EC has taken the steps to be able to lay a CI to create that particular constituency. And a number of things are going on there.
So your message to constituents there is that they should wait until the
No, they'll vote in the next election as far as the law is concerned.
Some lawyers have also argued that we could just start afresh, organize fresh elections in the area for them to at least have the opportunity to cast their vote for an MP. I
think that one, no, the EC is a law-abiding institution. If somebody takes this issue to court and the Supreme Court or any of the higher courts comes up with a ruling that the EC should go ahead and organize a fresh elections for them, we'll go ahead and do it. Well, the EC is a law-abiding institution, and the experts will tell you the law is what the Supreme Court says it is. So if in the wisdom of the court, we should go ahead and organize for them, the EC will go ahead and do it.
So you heard that Dr. Bosman Asari, Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Now, we do know the residents of Santo Kofi, Akakpo, Lolobi and Likbe, who were prevented from participating in the parliamentary elections, have been in court seeking an opportunity to elect their member of parliament. But we heard from the Deputy EC Chairperson who says they may have to wait all the way till 2024. Now, how does this pan out or resonate with their leaders? We'll have their reactions. Joining us for that conversation, Dr. Joe Adai. He is co-chairman for the Joint Steering Committee on SAL. Dr. Adai, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on the AM show.
Yeah, good morning to your cherished listeners, and thank you for having me online.
2 years on since the last election. Maybe my first question to you, why not let this rest until 2024?
You understand that Dr. Bosman reiterated in his remarks that the Constitution is the ground, a document on which we work. And the mandate given is to organize elections, declare results, and then whatever. So what EC clearly did is that they exceeded their mandate, because there is nowhere in the Constitution where EC had been, or any institution had been given a mandate to disenfranchise people. And for your listeners to actually understand the problem that emanated from this, and we cannot let it rest, is that for the background, for the record, there is one Valentin Edem Dache, an NDC member in the Hokwe constituency, who filed a suit at the Ho High Court challenging the NDC parliamentary candidate elect. And this case was referred to the Supreme Court for interpretation. And I think I have the judgment of the Supreme Court, which was delivered on the 22nd of June, of the 24th of June 2020. Just a summary. And it said, however, it is provided under Clause 6 of Article 47 that any review of constituencies shall take effect upon the dissolution of the next parliament. Accordingly, we ordered the Electoral Commission to amend CI 95. CI 95 is the CI that created the Hokwe constituency, that to bring it in conformity with CI 112. And the CI 112 is the creation of OT instrument. Such amendment shall take effect upon the dissolution of the next of the parliament. That is after the 6th of January 2021. So what happened was that in the attempt, the EC made an attempt to amend this CI 95 to replace it with 128. This was laid on the 7th of July 2020. But you know, the law also states, that is Article 11. I don't want to bother, I'm not a lawyer, but at least for the benefit of this discussion, Article 11, Clause 7 says that anything that becomes law in Ghana must be laid before Parliament and gazetted. You understand? So what happened was that the Attorney General took this SAL case from Ho High Court and brought it to the Supreme Court. And it was at the Supreme Court that it came to light that the CI 128, which actually sought to remove SAL communities from the Hohwe constituency, was not gazetted. So it was determined that it is no law. That means, because if you read the judgment, they said they should, however, take steps to amend the CI 95 to come in conformity. And if you refuse to amend the CI 128, is it our fault that you should go unilaterally and disenfranchise us? So that is the basis of our disenfranchisement. And that is why we believe that the rule of law must apply.
The rule of law must apply. I don't think the Electoral Commission disagrees with you, but here is what Dr. Bosman Asare has been saying. He is saying the EC should not be blamed. It is not within their jurisdiction. It is Parliament that failed to do the right thing, on the back of which they inherited that problem. How do you react to that?
Yes, I think I can recall on the 10th of May 2021, the same Dr. Bosman was on your Joy FM probe. And then he sought to convince Ghanaians that he wanted to amend the CI 1 so that South people can vote. And the question now is that if the CI 128 had been proved in law that doesn't exist and it is not a law, how do you now turn around to claim that you want to amend a law which is constitutionally flawed and doesn't exist? So you could see that the EC itself, through its leadership, is also playing games on Ghanaians. You understand?
You say it is playing games. Why is it playing games?
Yeah, because if an instrument doesn't exist, so the issue is that as we speak now, by law, the CI 95, which created the Hohwe constituency with SAL members intact, is still in place. So how do you now turn around and say you want to amend something which doesn't exist? You understand? That is the fundamental problem that we have with EC itself.
So the EC is in itself fostering an illegality. It is shifting goalposts. That's what you're saying, and trying to justify the situation.
And that is why, if you recall, again on the 9th of March this year, the Honorable Attorney General was in Parliament and then said that, yes, the LI that created the so-called Guan district, does not exist. It's in an illegality. Because he was questioning why should, like Dr. Bosman reiterated, that you need 21 days to create a new constituency. And from his remarks, he was saying that an LI was late in November. And November to 7th December you cannot even count 2 weeks, let alone the 21 days. So the Attorney General, in his remarks, which is also captured in the parliamentary handset, that the removal of SAL from Hohwe was an illegality. So he would recommend that Parliament should admit that they have erred and then reverse whatever LI that had been laid, so that the people of SAL will be allowed to vote and be represented in the 8th Parliament. It is a very clear-cut decision, because if you look, the Attorney General is the lawyer of the government and for the people. So and I think EC must also take instructions from the government lawyer. That is my position. So, I just want to refer Dr. Bosman to the parliamentary handset of 9th March 2022. Yes, if the Attorney General had admitted that the LI that created, or the so-called Guan district where SAL is supposed to find itself, is an illegality and they did it in error. If you create an error or a mistake, what is the best thing to do? You only reverse it. Does it cost EC or the Parliament to reverse the mistake that they have created in error? So that is the issue. So, Dr. Bosman is very clear from the onset that what they are doing is just an illegality. So for now, that is what I can say to that.
Right. So as it stands, Santo Kofi, Akpafu, Likpe, and Lolobi are a sort of orphan constituency put together. You are a sort of orphan constituency. What would the implications be if what Dr. Bosman Asare suggests, prevails, so that as of 2024, you don't have any parliamentary candidate or anyone representing SAL all the way until 2024? What would be the impact on this constituency?
No, the impact of it is clearly that if you look at the Constitution, I would say that somebody is abusing the Constitution. You understand? Because we are all Ghanaians. As we speak now, we are paying taxes, and from those taxes, they are paying EC and Dr. Bosman out of it. So it is our legitimate right to be represented in the 8th Parliament and not the 9th as he is suggesting. You understand? Because the supreme law of the country is the Constitution. And here we are now, one arm of government or one institution trying to subvert it. You understand? So that is the position that I take, because the greatest tragedy for humanity, and particularly for Ghana, is that basic institutions of upholding the critical virtues and democracy have generated into chaos, impired by lawlessness, greed, and ethnocentrism and tribalism and indiscipline. That is what the EC is now trying to exhibit. Because the law is very clear that LI that created the SAL district, or whatever they call it, is an illegality. It doesn't exist. They erred by creating it. So what is a simple answer to that? Reverse it, and then you do the needful, because Parliament is there to support or help them. So why do you use your own discretion and say these people must not vote and should not vote?
Right. Let's just address 3 questions very quickly and wrap the conversation. But I just want to have you explain to us. You use the word tribalism. How does tribalism come into this?
Yes, because if you look at all that is going on, why is it that the whole Ghana, it is only a certain group of people who have been disenfranchised and the whole world is sitting down unconcerned? If this thing had happened in any other jurisdiction, do you think it will go down well with everybody? Because people of SAL, we are Guans, and we have been distant. So I believe that it could be part of these tribalistic tendencies, because it's never heard of.
So tribalistic tendencies from where exactly?
I don't know, but from what I am telling you...
From the general political system?
It is very clear. The Constitution says you should not disenfranchise anybody who is 18 years and above of sound mind. And you, EC, have supervised, you have given us voters a voting right, and you turn around 6 hours to a general election and said, these particular people, because they find themselves in a certain enclave, should not vote. For what reason? I mean, I see. Anyway, if the word tribalism is too hard, I don't know. I mean, we can find a possible replacement.
Right.
But I could see that as lawlessness if we can replace tribalism with lawlessness, because this is what is happening. And that is the reality on the ground. You understand? Because from what I've reiterated earlier on, the government's lawyer was saying that what the 7th Parliament did was a mistake. So corrected, because Dr. Bosman, is also on record saying that the LI to create what you call the Guan district was passed in November, knowing very well you are organizing elections in December. I mean, how do you describe it? Is it not indiscipline or lawlessness? I mean, they could have stopped them from day one.
Right. Let's quickly get your reflection on this. Some have suggested that SAL be conjoined with Buem or other closer constituencies so you can get representation. How do you feel about that?
Yes. Once more, I'm not a student of history, but to put it on record, SAL communities were part and parcel of Jessica Karachi enclave. And because of certain happenings, we parted with Jessica or Buem, for that matter, since 1945. And from 1940, so that even in 1968, we voted with the Biakuye constituency. And then in 1978, we were the integral part of the Hohwe. So since the inception of the Third and Fourth Republics, SAL had always been voting in Hohwe. So like I've told you that the the CI, which is supposed to correct the errors that came up earlier on, was saying that yes, it must be cured, and that SAL must be allowed to vote in Hohwe, because we only know Hohwe as our constituency since the inception of the Fourth Republic. However, I think I want to put it on record that on the 27th of November 2020, we wrote specifically to EC demanding clarity on the election and the voting status of Akakpo and Lolobi traditional areas. And EC organized, a press conference chaired by one Mr. Tete, and told the whole world that South people will be voting in their mother constituency. And where is the mother constituency? Because it is the same EC who supervised the selection and nomination of parliamentary candidates for Hohwe. And they knew very well that we were part and parcel of Hohwe. So how do you turn around 12 hours to election and say these people cannot vote? So you could see that, I don't know. But that is the reality. We are part and parcel of Hohwe. So we need to vote in Hohwe. So the best thing is that I think Parliament should take a second look at this. After all, when mistakes are made, you can only correct them. Right. Yes, we call for a rerun in Hohwe, and that is where we belong, and that is where we have always belonged and participated in electoral processes.
Okay. All right. So just to wrap the conversation, even before we get into what the next step would be for your joint steering committee as far as this court process is concerned, let's also take a quick look. You still have, in terms of development, you still have, a district chief executive, chief executives, assemblymen, and all of that, which would mean that development hasn't necessarily come to a standstill in Santon Kofi, Akakpo, Likpe, and Lolobi. Has development been affected because you don't have an MP? Just add that to what your next move would be in court, and it's a wrap for this conversation.
No, our next move in court, our next move is that we want EC officially to write to us and communicate their decision. We would consult our legal brains. That aside, I think the solution lies in Parliament, because, like I said earlier on, the Attorney General came and told Parliament that, yes, the creation of that district in Guan, or whatever they call it, is an error. So the simple thing is that we are waiting for Parliament to effect what the government lawyer has said. And that solves the problem. Because as we speak now, we don't even know this in the roads, the hospitals and everything. Because, you see, because we don't belong to any directorate. As I speak now, my hometown, Lolobi, we used to have 4 midwives who were under the Volta Regional Health Directorate. But because of this confusion about where we should belong, all those midwives have been withdrawn. And teachers in the primary, middle, and tertiary circles have also been withdrawn, because as we speak now, there is no development. We are even losing the manpower and workforce within this enclave.
So you're saying the lack of
assembly that had been created is non-functional.
Right.
There is nothing going on.
Dr. Adai, you're saying the lack of an MP has also led to, and the lack of, positioning in this electoral system also means that development has been affected. Clearly, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, because if you are aware, even the whole country, when was the last time the district assembly common fund was paid? From my checks, I think they are in arrears about almost a year now. So if there is a district on paper and there is no common fund, there is nothing. Nothing is working. I am from the place. The youth are just becoming very idle and restless. You understand? So there is no development, and with this current state of affairs, the government cannot even pay the common fund. So where should development come from?
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So I believe, in conclusion, I think back to the main issue that EC has gradually and systematically led SAL and Ghana into a slaughterhouse. That is it. Because The order of the day now is that we have come back to ground zero, where many are now comfortable with sycophancy, begging and seeing no evil. They will see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. But I believe you, as a journalist, the fourth arm of government, you are doing a human job. We need to congratulate you that at least you have given us that chance to air our grievances and educate the masses. But I also urge you people to also put pressure on EC and Parliament to do the needful, so that we will have a lovely country to live in.
Dr. Adai, I know I said that was the final bit. If you can do this in 10 seconds for me, I'll be grateful. What do you contemplate about voting with the Ghana card? It's an afterthought, I agree, but just your quick thoughts on that. The Ghana card and its role in voting moving into election 2024, as put forward by Dr. Bosman Asari. What is your quick take? Very quick take on that.
I think it is very good, but I believe that it is a recipe for disaster and confusion. Because, you see, Ghana card will not limit you into your constituency. You understand? So I can see some political parties or smarties outwitting the system, whereby they would pack people into they'll take people from their strongholds and send them to their weak areas so that they can also grab those seats. So I believe that, yes, Ghana card is good, but I don't think it is the best to be used for the upcoming elections. Otherwise, because I can take my Ghana card now and go to Tamale and vote. You understand? So I think it is going to open more floodgates for fraud and confusion in the future. That is what I see.
All right.
But I stand for correction.
Dr. Adai, thank you very much for engaging as co-chairman of the Joint Steering Committee of SAL. Of course, we know that there's always a list as far as elections are concerned, specific to every constituency. And there's also been talk about those who are going to be 18 moving forward and how the Ghana card would feed into the conversation. But whatever it will be used for, a lot of concern, that must be addressed ahead of those elections in 2024 and beyond. But that was Dr. Adai. Stay with us. A lot more still to come as we talk the Habitat Fair, EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair ahead of the weekend. Do stay.
Hello, good morning to you. Trust you're doing well and relaxed this beautiful holiday. My name is Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah, and it's still the AM show here on the JoyNews channel. Now, we are just a day away from the second clinic of the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair with all the excitement at the West Hills Mall. Remember, where you live matters. The EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the planned city extension project from Cities and Habitats Rent to Own, and is sponsored by Elegant Homes and General Construction Limited, where quality meets value, Virtual Security Africa, Complete Security Solutions, Superlock Technologies Limited, you deserve the best, DBS Industries Limited, we truly are your roof experts, Duraplast Limited, where Duraplast goes, water flows, and Gold Key Properties, building prestige since 1997. The EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair, where you live matters. And joining us this morning as we look forward to the second clinic starting tomorrow is Theodora Jakwe. She is Customer Service Manager at DBS Industries Limited. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And James Kwausen, he's Sales and Marketing Manager. And he's also joined us, the two of them from DBS. It's great to have you here. Let me start off the conversation with you, James. So there was a first clinic at the Atromoto Retail Center. How was it?
It was great. And before then, let me acknowledge my viewers and the audience. And today happens to be Founders Day. I just want to wish them Happy Founders Day. And the previous fair was great. And you know, DBS has been part of this Habitat Fair from day one. Actually, the main aim has to do with reducing the housing deficit and every year DBS will come on board, contribute our quota to reduce the housing deficit. So it's not a new thing now. We were at the Habitat Fair the last weekend, and the attendance was quite great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we had you here a few weeks ago, and you introduced your concrete products to the general public, because we know you for roof products. That's why you are our roof experts. But you introduced us to your concrete products. Did you find that people came asking about that during the fair? Did anybody come, you know, are the people getting aware, Theodora?
Sure, yes. Quite a number of people came around to ask about it, and we gave them a good feedback, and they were happy to see that DBS is growing. Now we have everything to do with building materials. It's becoming a one-stop shop when it comes to building materials. Yes, so people are trooping in and they are patronizing it.
So what should we look forward to? Tomorrow we are starting our second clinic at the West Hills Mall. Somebody may be watching us for the first time and they may not be aware of what DBS really does. So what should they look forward to if they come to the clinic?
Okay, so if you have in mind, or you have started your building and you are coming to the fair and you want to know about roofing sheets, roofing products, that's concrete products, roofing trusses, roofing sheets. We have different types of them. We have the self-lock, that is the interlock. We have the IBR, which is the inverted box roofing sheets. We have the IDT. We have the Eurotiles. That's the one that has the chippings on it. Okay. That's aluzine coated with stones. And then we have the shingles. We have any type of roofing product that you think about. And then this time when they are coming, we are showing them that we give invoices right there at the stand. So you can come with your drawings, and then we can get you invoice right there.
That's great. So talking about the different types of roof sheets that you have available, linking that to our theme, Where You Live Matters. Can I just get a roof sheet for my house, or you would have to come and see where I live, you know, the kind of environment, climate? So say if I live close to the sea, is it dependent on that? Do you make recommendations based on, I think that's what I'm asking, or I can just choose as a client what I want?
No, when you come to us for roofing estimates, we want to come to your site to take the estimate so that we can advise you on what you really need. Some people know they want roofing sheets or stuff like that, but they don't know what type is good for their projects. So when we come on site, we are able to tell you that you need aluminium, or you need marine, or you need just a normal roofing sheet. Because how close you are to the sea can determine the type of roofing sheet you have to use. So yes, we come to your site and then we give you advice on what type of sheet you have to use. Yes.
Let me come to you, James. You're head of sales. So, you know, people like to hear about discounts, about special offers. So let us know if DBS has any.
Yeah, I think we have 10% discount only on our roofing product for now, for all those who've been doing business with us at the Habitat Fair.
So what if I'm opting for your concrete products? What are the special offers?
I think I'll give my lines out. Come and see me. I'll give you some. I'll give you some good offer.
I like that. I like that. I like that. So we are moving on to the second clinic, which is happening tomorrow. It's starting tomorrow at the West Hills Mall. Let me just reiterate that this will be happening for 3 days, from Friday through to Sunday, and we'll be picking your estimates. Come with all your questions. DBS will be willing to give you all the details that you need, and we know that there are some. That EcoBank, for example, is the partner. Do you have any agreements with EcoBank? If I come and I need financing, is DBS?
I think we are still in talking terms with them. So when the deal goes through, we'll let the general public about it. Yeah.
All right. So we've spoken about your roof sheets. Tell us more about your steel trusses.
So for trusses, you could admit with me, getting wood nowadays, I think is very hectic. So that's why we have introduced the steel trusses. And one good thing about the trusses is it's a lightweight material which doesn't exert much weight on your building. Talking of lightweight, someone who asks, oh, since it's a lightweight, then it's easily the truss can blow off. No, it is well engineered, and we anchor it to your building very well. But when there's even a strong wind, a wind or storm, it can never blow off. In addition, is fire resistance, water resistance, fire resistance in case there's a fire outbreak. Because it's metal, it will not burn.
Spread, yeah. Okay.
And it's water resistance, more or less like we see wood is exposed when it rains, when sunshine, it begins to warp, but the metal will not warp. And the cost is very affordable. Yeah.
So you'd actually recommend that we should start going in for steel trusses?
Very well.
Wood. Wow. Okay, so I mean, you've told us about the discounts you have for us, but what different thing are we going to see from DBS at the upcoming clinic?
Okay, so as I said earlier, we are going to give them invoices right there at the mall, yes, when they come. Unlike the other times, you will take your details, you have to send it from the office to you. But this time, when you walk in with your drawings, we are able to give you invoices right there at the stand. Yes.
Wow, that's wonderful. Okay, so your final words. So let me start with you, James. What special message do you have for the people?
So I just want to urge our audience just to be at the Habitat Fair just this weekend, starting from tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so that we can do business. You know, Habitat Fair is one avenue that whereby we made ample time for our customers. We have time, interact, ask questions, then we solve most of their questions for them. So just this weekend, they should be at the Habitat Fair. And anything roofing and concrete, they should look to DBS.
Great. Theodora, your final words.
Okay, so I also want to urge our viewers to try and be at the Habitat Fair this weekend for their discount vouchers. If they are ready to roof their building, we are ready to give them the 10% discount vouchers. They should troop in and get their invoices done, and then they can work to us.
At this point, I think you can share your contacts. Somebody may be watching us and they may want to make inquiries ahead of the fair.
Okay, so we are at the Spinters Road by the Papaya restaurant, and then our contact is 0302 817 212 or 211. We are also at Sapeman. The contact number is 0302 906146. And then we are at Takrady near the Impington Junction. Yes, the numbers to call us on is 0312 291616 or 0506 004242. We are also at Kumasi, Dakojum, or Kwamo at Kumasi. The number is 0506 044141. We are also at Sunyani, opposite the Sunyani Technical University, and the contact number is 0352 196904. We are also at Tamale, behind the Central Police Station, inside PWD Yard. The number is 0501 332897. Our social media handles are also sales@dbsghana.com or www.dbsghana.com.
Wow. Yeah. Quite a widespread across the country. That's good. Do you offer free delivery services as well if I make a purchase?
Yeah, I think for estimation is free.
Okay, estimation is free.
I will do a free delivery for you.
For me, just for me.
Just for you.
Thank you very much. James Pau and Theodora Jakwe are with DBS Industries Limited, and they've been telling us what they have to offer for our second clinic of the Habitat Fair, which is happening, starting actually tomorrow through to Sunday at the West Hills Mall in Accra. We've also been joined by Emmanuel Oforientry of Duraplast. He joins us via Zoom. Good morning, Emmanuel. And it's good to have you back, this time via Zoom. Tell us how the first clinic went. Hello, Emmanuel. Well, it appears we're having a challenge with Emmanuel's line via Zoom. Hopefully we can raise him and have that conversation. He represents Duraplast Limited. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, it will be time to pick your comments. I know some of you have a lot to share, especially about the concerns of exam malpractices and how it is affecting teaching and learning here in Ghana. Do stay. Hey there, thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. Time now to have that conversation with Emmanuel Ofori-Entry, who's with Duraplast Limited, as we look forward to a second mini clinic of the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair, which is starting tomorrow at the West Hills Mall. Good morning, sir. Thanks for your time.
Good morning.
Well, great to have you. So let's start off this way. How was the first clinic at the Achimota Retail Center?
You mean the one at the Achimota Retail Center?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. That was okay. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead. Give us your feedback of the first clinic.
See again?
Can you give us your feedback on the first clinic?
Yeah. The first clinic at the Achimota Retail Center, that was okay. I think it started from Friday. It built up the Saturday, and then Sunday it was great. I think we had a lot of customers on Sunday.
So for those who don't know what Duraplast does, just quickly run us through what you do and what products you have to offer.
You know, Duraplast is the leading producer of plastic products, like the PVC pipe. We have the HDPE pipe for domestic as well as industrial projects. We have blue and ADP products like the septic tank, which is very ideal for waterlogged areas. We also have the water tank storage tank. We also comes with additional indicator, water level indicator, which you can indicate or know the level of water in your tank, even at a distance. We also have the plastic pallet, for the, let me say, warehouses, food industry, the water companies, water producing companies. Instead of the wood, we have produced the plastic pallet for that industry. It's also doesn't come with the rodents and other insects the wood pallets come. We also have the multi-purpose box. This is a box which is made for multi-purpose application. It can be used in your office as a storage for your facility documents. It can be used in the home for storing your kids' stuff. It can also be used to school as a trunk or chop box. Then we also have the road barriers. You can see it a lot around, which we use to barricade. Maybe there's a construction barricade where vehicles should pass or not. To separate safety and maybe danger zones when there's a construction. We also have the U-drain formwork, which is also a plastic U-drain product for constructing U-drains for various sizes, I think about 3 or 4 sizes. Then we have a garbage chute. This is also one of our latest products, which is used in the construction of high-rise buildings. Instead of throwing the debris from 10th or 15th floor, you can just drop them through this garbage and it won't cause any harm to the environment.
Great. So what, what offers do you have for patrons at this year's edition of the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair?
You know what? At the first clinic, we started with 10%, and tomorrow's clinic will maintain that. But then as we go to the grand finale, we are going to give patrons and customers a very good deal.
Great. So tomorrow we start at the West Hills Mall. What should we expect when we come? Do we expect that we would have products right to purchase from there, or we can get you know, some briefing? You can answer questions and help us if it's a site you have to visit. What exactly can patrons expect when they visit your stands from tomorrow?
At the West Hill Clinic, I think we are coming with our full, educated, and well-knowledge and trained marketing officers who are going to walk patrons through our products, its application, its benefits, and how you can reach us. Actually, we have distributors and agents nationwide. We can also sell at the fair. Like I said, we're going to give 10% discount on any of our products we sell at the fair. So patrons should come to our fair, understand our product, what we do, where to get our product, prices. We are going to issue price lists also, prices, and any other issue related to Drug Plus as a whole, then also with our products as well.
Great. We'll leave it here. We'll meet you at the West Hills Mall from tomorrow through to Sunday, and we will definitely visit your stands. Thank you so much for sharing with us what you have to offer. That is sales manager of Duroplast Limited, giving us details of what they have to offer to you, hoping to build your home or furnish your home and all the needs that they can meet for you. Do stay here on the AM show. We'll take a quick breather, a very quick one. When we come back, we'll be taking your thoughts on the big issues we've been discussing here. Do stay. Welcome back. Benjamin has joined me. It's now time to take your comments. And one of you called, and I appreciate that, because then I get the sense that our viewers are very engaging, and you're just like us. You're fearless. You like to say what's on your mind. So please call us again. Let us know what you think about the big stories we've been discussing. Today we were talking about the malpractice,
examination
in schools,
malpractice. And that was what this person calling.
Exactly.
Right?
And Benjamin, look, I mean, we have to be an honest society. That thing comes down all the way to values. We have such a we don't have values as a people. We don't appreciate honesty. We don't appreciate truth. So someone goes to a school like Ashesi, where they aren't necessarily, you know, people invigilators, but the values are instilled right from the onset, and there's zero tolerance for cheating. Because you see, Benjamin, when you cheat in exam, you will cheat your way through everything. That is what I believe. And so my mates will tell you, if you call me in the examination hall, I won't mind you. I'm not being wicked. Let's teach our kids these things. You know, because sometimes there's this feeling of guilt, and I'm a fraud, I called you in the examination and you didn't help me, you're a bad friend. No, that is not the place to help you. I can help you preparing for the exam. And we did that quite a lot with our senior colleagues at GIJ. We did peer classes, but in the examination room,
examination room, it's a totally different ballgame.
Because the rules are the rules. And if you don't teach them to stick with that, they will cheat their way through everything. We have a caller.
Before we go to Abu-Baidoo, so just to make the point as well, we put that question out there about COLA, the cost of living allowance, and how people feel about it now that it's been assented to. You can share your thoughts on that as well. But
definitely. So is Abu-Baidoo still on the line, calling us from Kumasi? Hello, Abu-Baidoo, let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning and happy Founders Day.
Same to you.
Yeah, on the percentage of the COLA given, I think that it will not make any impact in the sense that already teachers, our salaries are very low, and we expected not less than 100% increment before it can make an impact. So the 15% given, I don't think
Sorry,
it can
now,
have
are you
any
saying
positive impact.
You expected 100%?
Yes.
Was it not 20% your leadership was asking for, and it was...
Yes, so they ask less. I would have suggested that they ask for 100%, but not 20%.
Right up and down. Thank you for your thoughts. We have to pick other callers. We are grateful you could join us. Adjoa joins us from the Eastern region. Good morning to you, Adjoa. Let's hear you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to talk about the malpractice issue.
Please go ahead.
In fact, when I was going to school from secondary up to training college and all of that, I quite remember I went to a mission school. The reverend sister would not even want you to turn your neck, even if you're tired. You would have to bury your head on your question paper until the bell goes for stop work. And some of us take that kind of, trait. And when we started teaching, we instilled that in our students. And today, some of my students will call me and tell me that, yes, we thought you were worrying us, but when we went to secondary school, we never had any problem because you had already, made us to be independent in exams room. But what do we see today? Parents would want to buy questions for their students, their work. Some teachers will also want to, buy questions or try to help them and all of that. And I'm seeing hands just for their schools to have good records and all of that. But at the end of the day, it will come back to hurt all of us.
Yes.
You go to the hospital and somebody is not well qualified. A person will give you the wrong medication. Another person will do something else somewhere which will affect you. So for me, I want stringent measures to be put in place so that whoever the culprits are, let's bundle them and punish them to serve as a deterrent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adjoa. We have Joel from Cape Coast. You are next caller, Joel. Let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for the privilege. I'm a teacher in Cape Coast here, and I want to talk about the...
Please go ahead. Just go ahead with whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, okay. So I want to talk about the malpractices. I think that some of the policies are what is bringing out this. Because gone were the days, a student who is weak will say, okay, I'm a weak student, I'll go for extra classes and all that. So I will prepare you better. But now, as we stand, GS, they ban extra classes. And the child is there. He's a weak student. He needs extra tuition. But because the environment wouldn't permit that, and you also have to pass. So you do every means to get it. So I think that is one thing to look at. Number two, I think they have to also consider bringing more of the external invigilators. Yes, because we with the teachers, when we even do the invigilation, they don't pay us. Can you imagine a whole 3-hour paper, you go and stand, you give it 10 cedis. So what is that?
10
so
cedis?
They should think of bringing external, examiners, well paid, so they'll do very diligent work. And about the cola thing, in fact, this month it never came. And this next month it doesn't come, we'll lay down our tools again.
Joel, we have to move on to the next caller, but just to find out from you, did you say standing, doing this work for 3 hours invigilating, and you get only 10 CDs?
I'm telling you. Last year,
Joel, 10 Ghana CDs, like 10 Ghana CDs.
I'm telling you, 10 CDs, I think it's a little bit after 10. It's not up to 20 CDs. You can check it out. So this year in particular, me, myself, opted out. I will not be part of it.
Okay. We appreciate it. But that's an interesting suggestion he gives. Because with the teachers helping their own students, because of familiarity.
Right.
So how about developing a system where you don't know who's invigilating you?
Exactly.
It could help.
Exactly.
But like you said, it will be more expensive.
Look at the situation.
Let's go to Swedru. Kwame is joining us from Swedru. Kwame, let's hear you quickly, please. Hello, Kwame. Oh, too bad. I think we lost Kwame there. But Ben, look, I think another leg of this problem is we like shaming struggling students. Okay, there's an emotional aspect to all of this we should not push aside. So there are people who sit in class, and it's not that they are lazy. Some of them have genuine learning difficulties. And you know, we don't do inclusive learning in a lot of our public schools in Ghana.
Right.
So there are people who have things like dyslexia. There are people who have attention problems. And so it's not that they are daft. We're just not teaching them the way it works for them.
And I'll tell you something shortly, but let's bring in Benjamin from Brekum. Hello, Ben.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Great. Please go ahead with your quick thoughts.
Yeah, good morning and good morning to the panelists. I would like to talk on the free SHS, the more issue.
Please go ahead.
We should take a very critical look at this exam malpractice issue because of what the statistical people also brought out, that we have seen that corruption is getting higher among educated people. I think these are some of the genesis. And as a country, if we really mean removing corruption, then we have to deal with this issue because we imbibe this culture of bribing our way through, bulldozing our way through, and we become grown-ups and professionals. Then the professionals and the technocrats become more corrupt than we can ever think about. So we should think about this as a small practice, and as people are suggesting, I think we should take it more serious so that we can have a more fair system and a system that will be properly, that can evaluate us properly.
Right.
That's what I think.
Benjamin from Brekum, thank you so much for joining the conversation. You were making a point, very valid one, about
children with learning difficulties.
So there are some, for example, and sometimes it is compounded by the kind of teachers they get who themselves may not have the right teacher training experience. I recall growing up at a point, so I happen to be, I think I'm one of the lucky ones because I am linguistically inclined and I'm also mathematically inclined. So both ways I go there. But growing up, there was a time when I hated anything mathematical, and it just had to do with the kind of teachers I had got.
Right.
So all of those feed into it. So you could end up making the pupil or student think he or she is daft when indeed.
And so they do everything they can to pass because they feel emotionally left out. They feel shamed. They are teased. They are disrespected just because they can't get it right. And it is not because they are daft. In fact, I don't believe anybody is daft. There are people with genuine learning difficulties. And I had, quickly, we need to wrap up, but I have to share this because it may help a parent, it may help somebody. So there was a teacher who told me that there was a girl who was genius. She was so smart, but she had an attention problem.
Attention deficit.
So she cannot sit for long. So after 20 minutes, she's tired. So she loses attention. So such a child needs special care. So when they began to give her the special care, they realized that her IQ was sharp. She was way above her colleagues. But when they didn't detect it earlier, she was failing. And there was another one who struggles when you examine her in a written form.
Right.
But if you ask her to do it orally, you see the brilliance. So there are so many aspects to this. I think what I'm just trying to say is that let's help children. Let's not shame them. Teachers, stop teasing children who struggle in class so that they will not feel that if you failed, then so what? I tell my colleagues in the university, your teacher has taught you. All he's saying that come and show me if you understand. So me, I don't take exams like do or die affair. No. If I fail at it, I'll figure out why I failed and do better.
Right.
And so I have that mindset, and I think we should let our children understand that this is the mindset they should have. It's not a do or die affair, Benjamin. When your teacher says, he's just saying that I taught you 1 + 1. Come and show me if you understand it.
The only problem with that, and I totally believe there should be a radical shift when it comes to our educational system. It doesn't mean you are useless because you failed in a certain subject area. But the other aspect of it, Bernice, is that even at our tertiary level, some people want you to reproduce verbatim or want you to don't even go outside of the box of what I taught you. That is a fundamental aspect of the problem we face, because then you don't grow thinkers, you grow thinking. Reproducers.
Well, Benjamin, you can go on and on about this, but I think what we are just trying to say is that this is not as simple as it looks. It's complex. Every child is unique, but we must figure it out on all the different angles. But by hook or crook, we must deal with this cheating problem because it is a bad thing and it is affecting this nation terribly.
Well, this is where, on that very passionate note, we have to end it. We're all passionate about education. Let's do something about it together. But up next, we'll bring you still more of that, what our guests have been telling us on Joy News Desk with
Brace, Samuel Kojo Brace. So do stay and enjoy the rest of your holiday.